Hello and welcome to Draft Day. My name is John Fleming. I'm one of the hosts of Draft Day. I'm joined, as always, by Jason Bradshaw, another one of the hosts of Draft Day. How you doing, Jason?
Dude, this is if I'm not going to be talking sports, I'm talking movies. This is super exciting. I won't lie. I used to get a lot more excited about the Oscars. Now the ceremony is just kind of like I'll just watch the speeches on YouTube, but I still love talking about this stuff. So I'm excited to talk about it with you and our
Not to give away,
returning special guest.
not to give away too much about what the premise of this episode is going to be, but we are joined once again by a guest from our previous episode of Draft Day. He gave such a sterling performance on the 2013 NBA draft that we have decided to bring him in for another bit of fun. It is Tyler Cox. Tyler, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Once again, thank you for having me. Pretty excited about this special episode.
Yes, this is indeed a very special episode. Obviously, anybody who saw the title of the episode knows what this is going to be about. We are in honor of the upcoming Academy Awards, which will be occurring 2 nights from when we're recording this. We are going to draft some Oscars things, and we're going to get into the premise in a little bit. I'm going to say that we delay the description of the exact parameters of our draft until we have our kind of preamble talk, because this is by far the most experimental draft we've done so far. The other drafts have been pretty straightforward. You just pick the best players in sports. There's not really a whole lot to it. This one's going to require levels of strategy, and if we thought Tyler got mad about Robert Covington and where he got drafted in the basketball draft, this could cause some real friction here, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah, we're going to learn some things about each other that we really don't want to know.
Yeah, and maybe we'll learn some things about some films as well. Like I mentioned, we are discussing the cinema, as one might say, rather than sports for this episode.
All right,
We'll
Scorsese.
discuss. I am flattered to be called Scorsese. I'm not going to dispute that one, even if I don't totally agree with it. But what we're going to do is we're going to be drafting things regarding the Oscars prior to this current year's Oscars. So the things that are being nominated for the upcoming ceremony are not part of the draft. But it would be a little bit ridiculous to have a Oscars themed episode and not discuss the thing that's inspiring us to do it. So we're going to take a little bit of time before we start drafting to discuss the 2023 Oscars. That's the way that we're describing these Oscars. We're all three of us are on team refer to the Oscars by the year the movies came out rather than the year the ceremony is taking place. So Jason and I have each seen 7 different of the Best Picture nominees this year. Tyler has seen 5 of them. So Tyler has seen, in alphabetical order, he has seen Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, and Oppenheimer. Jason and I have also seen all 5 of those, in addition to seeing the films Past Lives and Poor Things. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our turns ranking the films, not by necessarily how well we think they're going to do, because if you look at the betting lines, Oppenheimer is like the overwhelming favorite to win Best Picture. But will it be our personal favorites of the nominees? Let's discuss that. So since Jason and I both have a number 7 and a number 6 to get to before Tyler's list starts up, Jason, what is your number 7 of the Best Picture nominees of this year?
So before people get mad, I will premise, and I was telling the guys this before we started, of the 7 that I've seen this year, I wouldn't say that I don't like any of these movies. It's just a preference of which ones I like. That being said, overall movie at number 7, I have Bradley Cooper's Maestro as my least favorite one of the 7.
Yeah, number 7 for me is also Maestro. I should clarify, because I feel like Maestro is the film that most people are listing as their least favorite of the nominees. It's a pretty good movie. Like,
That's
it is a
fine.
perfectly, like if it were to win Best Picture, it would be, I think, a problem because the other nominees are better, but I don't think that it is an indictment. Like, it would be like an average-ish Best Picture winner for me. And honestly, I think the other 6 movies, if they're not in total great movies, they at least have moments of greatness in them. And that's kind of the perspective I'm coming from. But
Yeah, I agree.
number 6.
I'm gonna jump in really quick, not to give anything away, but let's just go ahead. I have Maestro of my 5. It's last place, so I think we're all in agreement of what we've seen. It's last place, and I'm not gonna say much more. With John kind of nailed it. I think in any other year, it's probably still not gonna win Best Picture, but it would probably be like the second or third best one, or potential best. So depending on what year you're looking at.
Yeah, I'm glad I saw it. I don't know that I'll ever watch it again, but
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know, one
probably
time,
is
why
going to
not?
win an Academy Award. Probably going to win hairstyle and makeup. I think it's the front runner in that category. I think, and obviously on Cooper as Leonard Bernstein, the makeup is very good. It's so and you know and I'm going to shout out Carrie Mulligan because I think she is fantastic in the movie, despite some of the I think flaws in the movie. But I guess then going to
They're both.
6 is
I mean,
oh,
they are both nominated for actor and actress.
this is true. And like
Academy's not sleeping on them.
Bradley Cooper is eventually he's the new DiCaprio with all the noms and no wins, I think. But to move to number 6, I'm gonna have people, I'm sure, vehemently angry. Maybe on this call, if not, I'm sure people listening to me are not gonna understand this. I have Barbie at 6. Not a bad movie, just wasn't for me in terms of like entertainment value. There are moments of it that I was really into. I think it's a beautifully shot movie. I do think that honestly, Greta Gerwig got snubbed in terms of not getting a director nomination for the movie. But it's just one of those. It could have been a product of when I watched it. To be fair, if you were to ask my wife, this would probably be her favorite of the Best Picture nominees that she's watched with me. So it's don't come at me in the comments, whatever. You guys have my X handle. Come at me. I'll defend it, but it's an opinion. So
I am much more likely to come at you for calling it X than I am to come at you for ranking Barbie 6th. I don't have it at number 6, but that's fine. Number 6, I'm
Clearly,
gonna
I don't.
also I'm gonna also alienate some people. Now, my number 6 is Oppenheimer. It's gonna win Best Picture, and honestly, I'm okay with that because the parts of Oppenheimer that work, and they work really well. But this is the movie, other than Maestro, I guess, that has like kind of long stretches where I just kind of am most inclined to kind of check out. It's not the longest of the movies I saw, but it's the longest feeling of the movies I saw. And the last hour of it kind of drags for me. That said, first 2 hours are awesome. The performances, the effects, this was a really good movie year. Like, this was a phenomenal movie year. And I like Oppenheimer, and frankly, I like Maestro more than the movie that won Best Picture last year, and more than a lot of other recent Best Picture winners. And just gotta pick something, though.
We're off
All right,
to a
Tyler.
terrible start, guys. We're just off to an awful, awful start. Just
All right, Tyler.
destroying me right now.
let's just say I'm keeping my mouth shut. It's fine. It's John's opinion. But yeah, we
All
know
right, Tyler,
Tyler's
you
5,
had
I guess.
Maestro at 5, yeah.
Maestro at
Yeah.
5. So my number 5 is the movie I've watched most recently. I watched this movie last night. And a lot of people, it got a lot of Academy Award nominations. That's Poor Things at my 5. Frankly, it's just a little too out there for me. I
It is out
appreciate
there.
I appreciate the swings that Yorgos Lanthimos has taken in a lot of his other movies. I will say, I think of the ones I've seen, and I think I've seen 4 of his. This is probably my second favorite of his. I just don't think he's my type of director. I even put this above The Favorite, actually, I think. I know a lot of people like The Favorite. But The Lobster is my favorite one of his. But, it was just, I think, a little too out there. I appreciate the artisanship within this movie. And since watching it, my wife and I have just all the time been just like walking past each other today saying, I'm going to go punch that baby.
Yes.
Because that's
the line from the movie. That's it.
Oh, like if they play clips from the movies, like for the nominees, and that's not the part they play at the ceremony, I'm going to be a little bit sad for Emma Stone's nomination. But yeah, Poor Things at 5, a good, beautiful, weird art house movie, but it seems that there comes one darling in what I would consider kind of the odd movies, as we saw obviously with the steam that Everything Everywhere had winning a lot of Academy Awards, and frankly, that is, I think, a less weird movie than this one, but definitely has weird parts.
I just want to say, since I haven't seen this movie, I will say I saw the first 15 minutes last night with my wife, and then my wife said, kind of to your point, Jason, this movie's too weird for me. And I said, all right, well, let's watch something else. I'll try to get to it tomorrow. And so, what I gather from my 15 minutes, I'm not going to judge the movie because I had 15 minutes doesn't tell you anything. It gave me kind of like the weirdness of like almost Edward Scissorhands vibe, like weirdness, where it's like you kind of got to envelop yourself in that world for it not to be weird. I don't know if that makes sense.
I think I get the idea you're in, and it's a much more like, I won't lie, the movie was much more sci-fi kind of forward than I maybe thought just from the buzz I'd heard about it.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest too, just, nah, I won't say that, but, I get that. And I think John would probably agree with me. The first 25, 30 minutes is probably the weirdest. And like, if you're going to drop out, like if you can make it through that first 15, 25, like the movie doesn't necessarily get less weird, but it's not quite as weird as, you
kind of finds its level.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of it has to do with kind of the stabilization of the main character, given kind of what she's going through without giving a whole lot away for people that haven't seen the movie.
And I am going to finish the movie. So whoever's listening, I will have a real opinion by Sunday on this. Just check Twitter. Maybe I'll post something about it.
Right. So I will save my sort of more extended Poor Things thoughts until I get to it on my list, but it is not my number 5. My number 5, I'm going to start alienating some people too. I'm going Barbie at number 5.
All right. Yeah.
Barbie is, here's the thing, very enjoyable movie. It made $1.5 billion. It's going to really help out the Oscars ratings. But I think that a lot of the themes of Barbie, while they're pointed and while they're interesting, a lot of them were kind of obvious. And that's going to kind of dovetail into when I get to Poor Things, where there's just like Barbie obviously has a lot to say about like the patriarchy, about feminism, all of which is well pointed, but it's not necessarily like it's pretty spelled out, which is very nitpicky because I think that the performances are very good. I think that the direction is very good. I think like the set design is like beautiful in a very like almost unsettling way how like pristine it is. But yeah, it's my number 5 because something has to be.
Yeah, I mean, and the reasoning can just be I like the other movies more, right? Like it's, at some point that's what it boils down to, I think.
All right, Tyler, you are up. Number 4.
Number 4.
Nice segue. Let's keep talking Barbie.
Okay.
Barbie at 4. I don't really have anything to add to what kind of John said. I mean, I saw the movie in theaters. I watched it here recently, just kind of as a refresher. Even though you see it once, you kind of can remember everything. It's pretty palatable film, but it's just an enjoyable watch. I mean, being at number 4 in this year is not some like, oh, this movie sucks. It's a really, really good movie. It's just in a heavyweight year, and I don't know, maybe in other years it could make a real strong run at Best Picture. It's just the wrong year. So
yeah, I will say that Barbie's the only one of the movies that I have watched a second time, which isn't to say that I won't rewatch some other ones, but I think it does have that kind of quality to it, which will probably enhance the way that people feel about it. But with all of the discourse that's surrounded, we don't have to get too deep into it, but all of the like anger about like Barbie being snubbed and Margot Robbie being snubbed, like I probably would have given Margot Robbie a Best Actress nomination over Carey Mulligan. can't speak to some of the other nominees because I haven't seen the movies, but I probably would have over Carey Mulligan, but I'm not like outraged over it. And I kind of get the sense that it's a lot of people that kind of only saw one movie this year. And they were like, hey, Barbie's really good, so I'm going to vouch for that. It's a little bit like whenever Dark Knight had its sort of Oscar run, where people saw one movie and
Yeah.
and that doesn't mean that the movie's bad. It doesn't even mean that their takes are wrong, but like I cannot shake the hashtag Hillary Barbie. It lives in my head of like, you clearly didn't actually like it's not like you like are really like making a checklist of this and like Emma Stone and Poor Things and determining which you think is a better reflection of feminism. Like that's not what this is, and that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, like you said too, I mean, made $1.5 billion. Like, while awards and stuff are cool, the studio's already fine with what it did. Like,
yeah,
at the end of the day,
and it's gonna win awards. Like, it's gonna probably win some sort of technical awards. It's the favorite, I know, for best song. Like, it's not gonna get shut out in all likelihood. And
yeah, it's gonna be it's interesting, because similar in a lot of ways, but I think too the craft categories of like production design, stuff like that, I think you're gonna see it come down to probably Barbie and Poor Things, because they're both very distinctive in their own kind of ways as far as they look. But I said too, gorgeous movie to look at. But.
Yeah, and they're both movies that have a lot of world building in ways that like the other movies, at least the other movies that I've seen, are like very, and to the best of my knowledge about the other films as well, they're like set in the real world, or at least the real world of a different era. But
yeah,
Barbie and Poor Things, you're not really meant to feel like this is normal. Like Barbie obviously is in a fictional world. Poor Things essentially takes place in the 19th century, but it's a lot of like steampunk kind of inspired set with a lot of anachronisms. And all right, Jason, you're on the clock at number 4.
So speaking of movies in the real world, Don't Hit Me, John. Killers of the Flower Moon at 4.
I would never hit you. You are far too far away for me to hit. But
and here's my thing. And I texted my thoughts when I watched it. I was on leave from work for a few weeks, and I texted John because I knew that he very much loves Scorsese and loves this movie. But the way you described feeling about Oppenheimer, about the one most easy to check out of, is how I felt about this one. I mean, I think that in terms of...
I can't tell if Tyler's storming off or if he's just getting something, but he has left the video.
Yeah, he's now gone. And here's the thing to me. It's like, I enjoyed the movie. I mean, but it's...
Sorry, I had to go scream real quick. I'm back.
No, I mean, and to me, to be fair, I really like my top 3 movies this year that are on this list. But to me, it was, you could have cut that movie by 30 minutes to me. I'm not going to lie. You could have cut Killers by 30 minutes and had the same type of outcome. My favorite part of the movie, though, is De Niro. Like, I think Lily Gladstone is great, but De Niro, this is the best he's been in 15 years, probably, I would say. And maybe I'm spoiled by DiCaprio, but it kind of just seemed like, not great Leo to me. Although not great Leo has won him an Academy Award before. Shots fired at The Revenant. But,
True.
and it's not to say not good Leo. It's just that, it's not Jordan Belfort level, in my opinion. But anyway, I digress. It's just where I stand with it. I really liked the other 3 movies that are ahead of it. And I mean, I think, if this is any indication, I think I'm on the island from these 2 as far as how movies go. But
we shall see. We still have it on our lists. But
yeah.
I will say, in your defense of the saying it felt long, I kind of felt that way about The Irishman, which is a movie that I really like, but like to me, that was the 3.5-hour late Scorsese movie that was like, kind of feels like an episodic.
This does not feel as long as The Irishman. I will give you that. Killers does not feel that long, and there's no awkward curb stomping scenes where Robert De Niro looks like an 80-year-old who's supposed to be like in his 40s curb stomping somebody. So
Yeah, De Niro feels insanely old the entire movie, and that really helps because
Yeah,
he is.
but he's still like so like politely evil the whole time.
Yes.
Like it's beautiful. But like I said, Lily Gladstone I think is fantastic in the movie, but and the story overall is good, but it's where I fell on my list. So judge away. But
I'll save my thoughts.
We'll get there. Number 4, I have it's been talked about already, but number 4 I have Poor Things. Kind of, dark Barbie, like I said. Similar themes, and I would say that to the people that were upset because Barbie didn't get nominated, but you haven't necessarily seen a lot of movies, like maybe you saw Oppenheimer, but you kind of have a certain like threshold. If you want a movie that is like a movie about like feminist themes and made by a director who now back-to-back movies with The Favorite and with Poor Things, like it's a male director, but it's very much making movies like about women and about the way that women think and process the world. This is the movie for you guys. And again, I have number 4 on my list. I don't think it should win Best Picture, but I think it's really good, and I think that it has a lot. It's not as commercial as Barbie for like several very obvious reasons, but I had a lot of fun watching it, and kind of like Tyler alluded to, it starts off weird, but it eventually settles in. Like once Mark Ruffalo shows up, it becomes a like pretty wild and like pretty fun movie considering a lot of dark themes in it.
Yeah, his character is the levity it needs, I think, in some cases. You know, but yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. I mean, to be fair, it was a spot lower on my list, so not like.
Yeah. So I will say that going into the award nominations, I heard a lot of it's Mark Ruffalo and Willem Dafoe battling it out for the Best Supporting Actor nomination from this movie. I 1,000,000% agree that Ruffalo deserved it over Dafoe. Like Dafoe's fine, but it's much more forgettable to me than Ruffalo.
Yeah, it's the makeup is a big part of I think Dafoe's why people say it, because the rest of it I think you could get 10 other actors, and it's something I've seen Willem Dafoe do before, like this style of acting. I've never seen Mark Ruffalo in a role like this. Most people probably know him as Hulk or whatever. I really liked him in the movie Dark Waters from a few years ago about the DuPont situation and everything. But always more straight edge, maybe kind of stuff, or maybe so, but not like he is in this movie. It's a really cool turn, and made me appreciate him because like Emma Stone, I'm like, okay, I already know she's a great actress. I think we could throw that term around with her, but Ruffalo was like, oh, geez, I've never seen this from him. Guy's got range, kind of a thing. So.
Yeah, Tyler, you're in for a good time once you get around to finishing Poor Things.
I'm excited.
That said, number 3 is up to you.
Yeah, this one came out of nowhere for me. I'm probably gave it away based on what you guys know my movies are. It's Holdovers. I thought Holdovers was one of it might have been the movie that snuck up on me the most. I remember seeing the previews in theaters and just being like, oh, it just didn't do anything. I was just like, oh, this is going to be a weird comedy, not for me. And then I saw that Paul Giamatti was getting a lot of Oscar buzz. I'm like, is it like one of those movies? So I gave it a shot and I watched it with my wife, and my wife and I walked away going like, that was wonderful. That was absolutely, it was like delightful. It had sadness. It had happiness. It'll be in years to come as it gets generated more in like people's world. It's not big yet. I think eventually it's going to be on those lists of like best Christmas movies. I think you're going to start seeing it rise up really fast over the years.
Yeah, I think the Christmas movie part of it is huge because it's not a Christmas movie in the same way that like Die Hard's a Christmas movie, which but it's also an action movie. Like this is like the themes are very much centered around that kind of familial feeling.
Yeah.
And I don't know where Jason has it ranked, but apparently we all have it in our top 3, so we're all on board with you.
Yes, I'm. I'll save mine because it's a little higher up, but I agree with what Tyler said. It's like I'm gonna watch this movie every holiday season. It's gonna make its way into the rotation. for sure. And I mean, yeah, I, well, I'll talk about more when it gets to me on the list. But this was just like, and I guess it continues something that we've seen maybe more of the Oscars the last few years have started to do. And it doesn't have to be all these like big, huge, dramatic. Like it's okay to have a feel good movie and these types of things. We saw it with Coda winning a couple of years ago for Best Picture. We saw it like Green Book one that it has its moments, but then it kind of leaves you feeling like, oh, like I just feel good watching this movie, and that's what the Holdovers was. Like it was just like fun, but like also has really great acting in it. So I thought that was really, really cool. So.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to my 3. Is that where we're at?
Yep.
So my 3, I'm going to put a movie that I only heard about from people like before talking about it when it had come out. And I know John has watched this movie recently, and Past Lives is my number 3 movie. And I don't even know that I can even like talk about like why I like this movie so much.
Yeah, same.
It's not a big spectacle movie. It's a very small, type of thing. It's by, I believe, a Canadian-Korean director.
Correct.
And I believe it's a woman as well. I forgot her name. I apologize for that.
Yeah.
But
it is a woman. I also forgot her name. So
and I had Barbie at 6. Let the assumptions begin now. But yeah, it's what I just don't know. I think maybe in similar how I talked about the whole, like you just watch it and you're just like, it's just good, solid filmmaking that isn't anything, but it keeps you engrossed in it. Like there's not a moment that I can remember watching it. Admittedly, this one, since it came out earlier, it's been a little bit since I've seen it, and I haven't gone back and revisited it like I have some of these other ones more recently. But John, I don't know if you have anything else to add or if it's even higher on your list. I know it's much fresher in your brain than it's on mine.
Yeah, I literally watched it yesterday, so it is much fresher in my mind. And we will discuss it when it comes up on my list because it's not coming up at number 3. Number 3, I'm going with the Holdovers. To say what others have said, I think Paul Giamatti is not going to win Best Actor, but he would get my vote of the movies I've seen. I think that the supporting performances are very good. I think it's just a really strong story, and I think that to kind of dovetail to what Jason said about Past Lives, I think these are similar movies in the sense that it really is just kind of a very small movie relative to like something like Oppenheimer, where it's about like literally you could argue like one of the biggest moments in the history of the world. And like it's just kind of about like a holiday weekend or holiday break that a few like disparate people had, but it's really well made. It's available on Peacock for anyone who has that service. Definitely recommend it. And yeah, shout out to Alexander Payne. He just makes good movies, man. Like, and I don't know if there's necessarily anything flashy like in terms of the direction of it, so I'm not going to get outraged he didn't get nominated for Best Director, but like he is really good at this, and like he's worked with Paul Giamatti before in Sideways, and there's a lot of that kind of energy here.
That I do want to make one quick thing just to jump on that. That was one thing that I found the movie to be its most endearing quality is how the director put you feeling like you're in 1971. Like with the film, how it's shot, the acting style, like you felt like you're Christmas break of 71 and you're a high school student dealing with this curmudgeon teacher. And I thought if anything, of all the movies, I think it's the most relatable, to be honest, from my perspective. So
yeah, I'd agree. That's universal. And I won't lie, I'm going to usurp her on Tyler a little bit here. It's my number 2. So I think as opposed to having Tyler talk about a movie and then me jump in, I want to just kind of get it out there. I'll tell you, it's my number 2. Really enjoyed this movie. And it was funny for me because I'd heard a lot of things and kind of, I mean, I think like we talked about Giamatti. I mean, it's essentially a movie of 3 people. Paul Giamatti, Dave Joan Randolph, and Dominic Sessa. which I'm pretty sure this is like Dominic Sessa's first like acting.
It is
like
his first movie.
insane.
I think he's done TV before, but
maybe some TV. Yeah, my first movie, but he's great. And I mean, I think the biggest slam dunk in the Oscars this year is going to be Davine Joy Randolph winning. She's won everything. And it was funny because I remember watching the movie. I'd heard this leading up to it because I didn't watch it until it came out on Peacock. And I'm like, I don't get it. And then she has her scene at the party. And I'm like, oh, I get it now. Like a character who you just kind of think she's just, the for lack of a better term, at this boarding school, the lunch lady. She's kind of over the kitchen, the cook, things of that nature. And you're just like, oh, okay, she has her story. And then that happens. You're like, oh, shoot. Okay. But even like certain things, like the way she interacts with Paul Giamatti, like trying to explain to him what the Newlywed Game is. And yet somehow you're like endeared to this, being like, oh my gosh. But, and it's like, it's a great type of movie where it's like, you can see, I think you see where the progression is going as far as you're like, okay, the relationship, the curmudgeon teacher, and what he does at the end of the movie, I won't give away, but like you kind of fist bump when you're like, that's right. Way to go, Paul Giamatti. You did it, kind of a thing. And, the whole thing that they do when they leave the school and go into town, if you will, and things like that, and all that comes along with it. I agree where it's like, whereas other movies have themes that, a lot of people can relate to. I think this is one that just it is a universal, human experience, if you will. And, it was one of those, like, you just watch it and you're like, I mean, a lot like some of the other, but you just watch it, you're like, I feel good. This was great. Like, it's nice to leave a movie and not just be like, I feel beaten down, like the zone of interest or something like that. From what I hear,
I want to be clear. There are dark parts in the movie. It's not a purely joyous movie, but it is a movie that it's a good hang. Like you mentioned the Newlywed Game scene. Like I kind of just want to watch TV with these people, and like that is And I think I've told both of you this, but the single moment in any movie this year that I felt the most was Dominic Sessa's character. Whenever No Matter What by Badfinger starts playing in the bar and he starts espousing the virtues of Miller High Life, to which point I will pull out the Miller High Life I purchased earlier today. This was actually not planned as part of the bit, but I just saw the opportunity and I'll have you crack this open.
Champagne of beers, baby.
Champagne of beers. Cheers, boys. We got a long podcast ahead of us.
Yes, this is just the intro, guys. Buckle up. But yeah,
right.
Sorry, Tyler, you can go to your two now.
Number two. All right. Well, I'm clearly the audience is looking at me as Tyler likes movies that go boom, and only likes action, and only likes big name actors and people he knows. So here we go. Number two, Oppenheimer. Read the book. Maybe that plays a factor in it for me. The book was heavy just as much as the movie was. I do like feel-good movies, but sometimes I like coming out of a movie feeling a little bit like thinking a little, a little bit. Dread. Yeah, in this case. But I'm also a sucker for Nolan movies, so there's a lot of biases built into why I have Oppenheimer at 2. I saw it in theater twice because I'm a sick individual. I need to be probably medicated for something.
You had 7 hours to kill, whatever.
But I saw it in IMAX twice, and seeing it in IMAX and all the sound and the score of the movie and just feeling like, I don't know, just for me, how the movie made me feel in that moment. It was going in, I was like, well, this movie's not going to give me any suspense or anything, because I mean, we obviously know how it turns out because we're all still here. But still, in that moment, you're just feeling the dread of the actors just make you feel what probably it felt like in real life in that time. And so I felt like it was the most. I thought it was. I don't know. It was number 2. I saw it twice in theaters. That kind of speaks for itself there. So.
Yeah, I mean,
movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk a little bit more I mean, if you know the movies I saw, you can figure out what my number one is. But yeah, I mean, but like the overall cast of this movie too. I think like, bro, like I can't remember the last time I got so excited to see Josh Hartnett in something, and he's fantastic.
He's really good in it.
He was good. He was good.
I mean, everybody, even like it's like Florence Pugh. You get her, and you get somebody like her to be not in the movie that much. You get somebody like Emily Blunt, who, while important and nominated performance, not in the movie all that much. Because obviously, we're focused on Cillian Murphy, who I think has probably become the front runner for Best Actor this year now, after the SAG win, especially. Yeah, but I mean, I'll gush more in a little bit, but something tells me that this is what, John having it lower on his list is like, I had to hold my tongue a little bit, but
it's really good. I'm not trying to disparage it. So I do want to comment, because you mentioned Florence Pugh. I thought Florence Pugh was amazing in this movie, and there was like this weird like cycle of discourse around her performance. And
I mean,
like,
it's not about her acting; it's the discourse. I mean,
yes, true, but like
how she appears in the film.
Her character is not integral to the plot in the sense that like she's not integral to like the creation of the atomic bomb, but she is integral to like creating Oppenheimer's like character and how like kind of the world around him and how he feels and how he perceives the world. And I think like, I'm not really a huge Florence Pugh fan for the most part to this point in her career. Obviously she's still young, but I thought she was very charming in this movie.
Yeah, and I mean, I think while I agree she's big in forming the J. Robert Oppenheimer character, like, but we see especially in that last kind of 30 minutes, she is extremely instrumental in how Emily Blunt turns out in the movie as well.
Yeah, that's true.
There's the whole kind of last pieces of that where they're in that boardroom and everything, and it's like that was the point to me. Like Florence Pugh before, I'm like, okay, I get what she's doing, making him, in terms of shaping him. But like the looks, like when she appears, and then you see kind of Emily Blunt's face as she's envisioning this kind of a thing. It's that's where I was just like, man, like, okay, I appreciated it more in that instance than maybe I did even earlier in the movie, and maybe that was just me getting settled in as well. But
that's where my biases came in with the book and the movie, is because Florence Pugh's, I say character, she's a real person, or was a real person. She was very integral in the book and in real life to J. Robert Oppenheimer. So she had to 100%, that character had to be in the movie, because if you don't have her in the movie, you really don't understand the tension between Robert and his wife, Kitty. Like, you wouldn't understand, the dynamic would make no sense without her character in there.
I'm feeling like a jerk for having it at number 6, but
it's fine.
Way too low.
It's your list, man. That's the beauty of this.
My number 2 is the movie I saw yesterday, Past Lives, and I have to be honest, this was a movie I had no expectations for whatsoever. I do want to give a special shout out to the St. Louis County Public Library, because the reason I saw this movie was available was because I have their app on my phone, and I was able to just rent it on my phone, and people don't take advantage of free things enough, so that's my suggestion to everybody. But this is a movie that I found extremely like down to earth and relatable for being a movie that is like at its core an immigrant story. Like everything about it felt very relatable in a way. Not only, and there's not necessarily like a great showy performance. Like most of the movie, the two main characters, like kind of by definition, are kind of awkward. It's kind of like part of the idea behind how they communicate, which I don't want to give away too much, but they're communicating through like internet calls, which, hey guys, how's it going? But you have characters who are all like motivated by different things. You have the main supporting character, the husband of what I would consider to be the main character in the movie, who is like very kind of insecure, but also is like a stand-up guy. And every character in this movie's motivation is pure, and they all seem like fundamentally good people, and yet you're not sure exactly how it's going to end. And yet, like, it has such a resonance to just, even if you're not an immigrant, even if you haven't like moved halfway around the world in your life, you still can relate to the fact that, like, especially in like the Facebook era, there are people that never really leave your life that you haven't talked to for years, and they're just kind of like part of your story, and you can't shake that, and maybe you shouldn't want to shake that. And I think a lot of people are going to be scared off by this movie because, a lot of it is in Korean, but honestly, most of the Korean dialogue is like pretty slow, so it's not the biggest subtitle challenge to me. And kind of the juxtaposition between the dialogue that's in Korean and the dialogue that's in English is necessary for the plot. So, yeah, Past Lives, really good. Everyone should see it. Don't think it should win Best Picture, but wouldn't be upset if it did.
All right, guys, gush about Scorsese for a few minutes.
Scorsese. That's not what I was going to
Buddy,
gush
we have a
about.
whole draft ahead of us to gush about Scorsese. We don't...
Well, I mean, I may join in on some of that.
Sure. All right, Tyler. We know what your number one is, and it's also my number one, but you go right ahead.
Yeah. I'm just going to dive right into this. Again, it's another one. Read the book, biased, whatever. I'm a book guy. If Jason probably doesn't know me. I love books. I read this book before it was even thought of as a movie. And when I saw Scorsese picked it up, I think I Google searched Killers of the Flower Moon movie like every month just to get like who's going to play the characters. And then when I saw DiCaprio and De Niro were like the first ones to get like placed for the movie, I was like, this is a movie that just can't fail. There's no way. As long as they stick to the source material, it's going to succeed. And they ended up being two people that they weren't even the best actors/actress in the movie. That was Lily Gladstone, who just came out of completely nowhere. And I remember watching the movie and immediately being captivated by her in theaters. And by the end of it, I was like, I think I have a new crush in Hollywood.
Yes.
I walked out. I was in love. I walked out in love, guys. Like, I've never felt that way watching a Scorsese movie where I fell in love. But it happened. And I want to give one shout out so we can cut some time out. Every performance, I can't think of a bad performance in the movie, but a performance that is not getting enough recognition is the sister of Molly Burkhart, Anna Burkhart.
Yeah, she's very good.
I had to look it up. Cara Jade Myers. So underrated, not getting like she was a top 5 performance, and she's not even getting mentioned for anything. I just think it's a shame because there are so many great performances in that, and unfortunately hers gets pushed off to the side because it's not DiCaprio, it's not De Niro, it's not what we now see with Lily Gladstone. So just want to give her a shout out.
You mean to wrap up the Killers of the Flower Moon talk and just get it over with for you, Jason?
Oh, no. I'm laughing for my hot take right now, so it's...
Okay. We'll get to that, and
yeah.
Honestly, if Tyler was going to storm off based on where you rank Killers of the Flower Moon, this could result in like fatalities.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, I co-sign everything that Tyler said. The day after I watched Killers of the Flower Moon, I ranked every Scorsese movie. I had it third on my list. I'm not sure if that's necessarily where I would. I'd have to kind of go back through it, but I don't feel bad about that. I feel like this is this is kind of his late stage masterpiece. I think it's his best movie of the 21st century. I did not feel bored by it at all. I would have watched this movie for 5 hours if not for having to go to the bathroom. I would slightly disagree that there's no bad performances because Brendan Fraser's in the movie, but I am willing to kind of get past that.
That's a good point.
In that movie,
he went for it, guys. He went for it. He really went for it.
Yeah. If you guys haven't seen, if anyone listening hasn't seen Killers of the Flower Moon, no matter who you think is the best actor of the year, the most actor of the year is Brendan Fraser in Killers of the Flower Moon. It is insane. And like a lot of people commented that John Lithgow is also over the top. It is nothing compared to Brendan
It's nowhere
Fraser.
close. Like I agree. You would say, oh yeah, John Lithgow is maybe a little over the top, and then Yosemite Sam comes in.
Yes.
That's literally how Brendan Fraser like reminded me of. But
It was a whale of a performance.
that's good.
I have no comment
All
on the
right.
matter.
So yeah, and then I'll keep. If you guys have anything else, I'll keep it short. Oppenheimer was my favorite movie of the year. Admittedly, the only one of these that I've seen in the theater. You know, I'm someone who has 2 small kids, so just date nights to the movies don't happen. One of them's less than 6 months old. So, but I purposely like the first week Oppenheimer was out. After the kids went to bed, went to like a 9:30 showing on a Tuesday to go see this in IMAX. And you know how you said you walk out thinking, like, I just sat there as the credits roll, and I'm just like, wow, like, what did I just watch? I know not everybody feels well. I'll throw the M word around. I think it's a masterpiece of a movie. I really do. I've been biased in the sense of I do think Nolan may be the best director working in terms of consistency right now. If not, he's probably the biggest star, like akin to how Spielberg used to be. Who could sell movies? You can sell a movie on the fact that it's a Christopher Nolan movie. The whole Barbenheimer thing obviously helped. I mean, this is a prestige movie that's probably going to win Best Picture that almost made $1 billion worldwide as well. For a 3-hour R-rated movie.
And it's kind of a movie where not that much happens. Like, obviously there's a nuclear test, but it's not like it's not like it's a war movie in the conventional sense.
No. And I think I'm somebody that maybe this movie is tailored to. I love dialogue heavy movies where you can really build character through dialogue. And I think honestly, like where I learned the most, like honestly, like probably not on screen enough, but like I can't remember off time, but the actor plays Albert Einstein in the movie. It's just like his interaction, and when you find out what he says to Oppenheimer and things, it's like to me, I'm just like, gosh, that's just perfect, like in terms of everything, and in addition to Christopher Nolan, like big shout out to his wife, who's like his producing partner and never gets any of the love, but I think maybe she'll get some time because I think this is pretty much solidified going to be the Best Picture winner on Sunday as well.
Yeah, it's gonna win a lot of awards.
Yeah.
I do want to make one comment, and we'll get to John on his. With Oppenheimer, I just blanked. Sorry. Go ahead. Moment's passed.
I'll fill some time briefly. So I think Oppenheimer was definitely helped by the whole Barbenheimer thing.
Sure.
And Barbie was like a very obviously commercial movie. It's like based on an insanely popular toy. Margot Robbie, very acclaimed actress, but also a very commercial actress in ways that like Cillian Murphy's not really that way. But like this movie probably still would have made like well into the hundreds of millions on the strength of the Christopher Nolan brand. And like it is a very, and I'm not as big of a Nolan guy as Jason is. Probably my ranking might show that, but also like somebody who is able to kind of cross the like commercial filmmaking with art movies. And I believe this is the highest grossing Christopher Nolan movie, which I mean the guy made 2 like Batman movies, so it's
I want to say Dark Knight Rises and Dark Knight both went over $1 billion, but I'm not sure off the top of my head.
I could be wrong, but I think it's at least close enough that I'm willing
maybe
to
domestically
sort of
it's
note
the
it as
most.
a point.
That's the thing too, though, is that like this, the international appeal of this movie too. Like this movie did well, not just in the U.S. with it being, this type of story. But
So my comment was going to be that I had Oppenheimer 2, Killers 1, and it was a very close by just a smidge for Killers. And the only reason I gave it to Killers is because of the rewatchability. I'm probably gonna watch Killers of the Flower Moon more times than Oppenheimer going forward. But I also am against the whole idea that like just because a movie is sometimes just like a one time you see it and you're just done makes it like not a good movie, or I gotta like drop it in my rankings. Like some movies are just meant to be like you see it once and it was great and you just move on. It's like a firework. You know, you don't get upset because a firework doesn't go off again. The explosion was there, it was awesome, and you move forward.
Yeah.
And like most of the movies that we're going to be discussing once we get to the draft, like most of these are movies that I've seen exactly one time, and that's kind of all I need, because like there are some that I've watched many times, but there's a lot of them where I've watched them one time, and that's kind of the effect that the movie has. And you know, I think that a lot of times rewatchability kind of coincides with being a little bit lighter, a little more fun, which I don't think is a bad thing, but I also don't like the idea of being like, because Barbie doesn't involve a bunch of people being murdered and doesn't involve, you know, atomic bomb testing, it's like inherently better. If that makes sense? Like maybe it is better, but it's not inherently better because of like the lightness of the subject matter, relatively speaking. Obviously Barbie's it was a darker movie than I thought it would be when I heard that Barbie was going to be coming out as a movie, but it was definitely not. It was not quite as dark as, say, the movie in which like thousands of Japanese people are killed.
I agree.
Yeah. Obviously, my number one's Killers of the Flower Moon. Don't really have a whole lot to add to what was said. Tyler and I obviously are both madly in love with Lily Gladstone, for two people who are married to people that are definitively not Lily Gladstone. But I believe this is her, like, her Oscar campaign reminds me a little bit of the Jennifer Lawrence and Silver Linings Playbook one, where it's like everybody kind of sees her at these award shows and just like, this person's great, and I'm just like very like attracted, not necessarily in like a romantic kind of way, but like attracted to like this person's presence. And I think, you know, Jennifer Lawrence was definitely more famous going into that movie than Lily Gladstone was going into this one, but I think it's a similar effect. All right, Jason, we've gone long enough. We have to get to the draft, but you need to throw out your take, because I just want to see if we have a two-person draft or if it's gonna.
All right.
Let's say.
I might need to walk around for this.
You might want to sit down, actually.
You're going to pass out on this one, Tyler. So, a hot take that John alluded to is, if I had a vote for Best Actress based on this year's nominees, I would vote for Annette Bening for Nyad.
Yuck.
So I have not seen Nyad, so I can't comment on the matter. I will say,
to be clear, Killers of the Flower Moon is a much better movie than Nyad, but I think that Annette Bening is phenomenal in Nyad. I know there's a lot of controversy around Diana Nyad, obviously, and, you know, did she do the swim or not kind of a thing, and that's been talk. But it's not saying I put Lily above Emma Stone for what it's worth, but
you know what? I actually thought the take was going to be like way hotter than that. I like it. But I thought I was about to get a Lily Gladstone was overrated, and you didn't see why she's getting the fanfare that she's getting. And I was like, that's what I was ready for. So I'm glad.
Yeah, I believe she's a very lovely person. I mean, the speech that she gave at the SAGs, I think, was, if anything, has helped her. I do think that, you know, she may be in the closest race, you know, come Sunday. I think
of the major awards, certainly.
I think she's gonna win it. I really don't think it's there's just a vibe.
Say that I agree with you. I think she'd win, but if it was a confidence pool, I would not have a lot of points writing on it, because I do think that just Poor Things has a lot of momentum. But anyway,
Emma Stone will have more opportunities.
Hopefully Lily will too.
True.
I hope so, yeah.
All right.
So it is time to, after about an hour of preamble, get on to the draft. So here's the principle
Good
of the
Lord.
draft for everybody who is listening. Look, we're doing this on a Friday night for a reason. We can go all night if we have to. I'm not going to edit anything. That's probably not true, but it's
It
going
may
to be
be too
mostly
hard.
uncut. Yeah, it might not fit on Spotify. I might have to like put the other one on Apple Music just because of like bandwidth of their servers or something. But all
Draft
right, so
day,
the
bigger,
principle,
longer, and uncut.
yeah, draft day, which is the film draft day, is number 7 on Apple TV Plus right now. I'd like to think that we helped that out.
Yep.
But uh, draft day, the movie, has nothing to do with this draft because this draft is about the Oscars. So this is a draft in which all 3 of us are going to have 12 different selections. It's going to be a 12-round draft. Each of us is going to select a winner and something that was nominated but did not win in the categories of Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress. One major caveat, though, is once a thing is chosen from that year's Oscars, it's off the board for everybody. So, for instance, Jason has the number 1 pick. Let's say Jason picks Crash from 2005, which I think we all assume he probably
Spoiler
will.
alert. Gosh dang it. Hold on, I gotta change my
And
strategy.
then let's say that I follow up and draft The Greatest Show on Earth for Best Picture. You might think, oh, well, Tyler can just wait until the last round to select his Best Picture. He can wait until the last round to select Wings. But not necessarily, because if either Jason or I drafts Emil Jannings from The Last Command for Best Actor from the 1927 Academy Awards, then Wings would be off the table. Yes, I did have to look up who actually won the awards that year for this bit, but that is the way I can explain this.
This is going to be insanity in the best way possible.
Unhinged.
Yeah. To say that I spent more time preparing for this draft than for all of the other drafts we've done is the understatement of the century. I had a lot of fun doing it, but boy, did I spend a lot of time on this.
Hours and hours of prep, I'm sure, on all of our parts.
So I should also note that unlike our other drafts where we just go in the same order every round, we're doing a snake draft. So frankly, this is because I want to win this draft. I don't care about the other drafts we've done. This one I want to win. I'm out for blood on this one.
Man.
So Jason will have the first selection. I will have the second selection. Tyler will have the third selection. And then in the second round, it'll go Tyler, me, Jason, and then so on and so forth. I think anyone that's ever played fantasy sports knows how a snake draft works.
See, now I'm like questioning, even though I've had my pick, then I know what I want to take first for like over a day. But I think I have to go with it. So are we ready to go? You guys ready to do this?
Ready?
Scared, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think just we talked about make sure with you guys, first thing you say, make it the year, just so also people can kind of go and prep their lists throughout, I think, while we're doing this.
Sure, yeah.
So when I was thinking about things, I'll tell you guys, the year that I'm going to start this draft off with is 2014. This will be the ceremony held in 2015.
Wow.
So 2014. For a few reasons. And a lot, to me, this is one of the, this is the Oscars that in my kind of post-college life, if you will, or got me just really back into being into movies. So,
I will say I think I know what you're going to pick, but we'll see if I'm right.
Well, no, I want you to do it. What am I going to pick here, John?
I think you're taking J.K. Simmons for supporting actor.
You are correct. I'm taking J.K. Simmons for supporting actor. He won the Oscar this year, and part of the reason is supporting actor is one of the categories where there were maybe 2 or 3 that if I didn't get them, I was going to be like, oh, shoot. It's not as deep to me. And so some of these. And John knows me well. Whiplash is one of my favorite movies. I probably watch it 3, 4, 5 times a year, if I'm being honest with you. But like, you know, him in this movie, like this is a guy who I knew as like J. Jonah Jameson from the Spider-Man movies, or as the voice of the Yellow M&M, or the guy in the Farmers Insurance commercial. And then you see him in this movie. And when he's just ripping into one kid that he eventually kicks out of his band, you know, I don't know. Am I allowed to curse on here, or should I refrain from it to give his actual stuff?
I think
he
in the
does a lot of
spirit,
problematic stuff in that movie. So
Yeah. I mean, at the end of it, you know, I'll say the quote, but at the end when he's kicking, he's like, I'm not going to have you cost us a competition because your mind's on an effing Happy Meal instead of on pitch. And the kid like gets up crying and leaves. And he's a guy that like, you're like, man, this guy's an absolute jerk. But like at the end of it, you're like, I kind of get it. I mean, and I could have gone a lot of things. I don't think this is my favorite movie of this year. And this is a loaded year. Like if we talk about movies, like Birdman was in this year. Boyhood was another movie that I loved the concept of it and just the idea that it took so long to shoot with the same actors. So nobody's getting Patricia Arquette anymore.
Actually, I was going to say that was Patricia Arquette I was seriously considering taking with my first pick. So you've taken that off the board for me.
Yeah, and you know that was one that like when I started to do my rankings of that category, I was like, shoot, oh well. I mean, yeah, but like you know, to me, and I mean, this is the movie that sort of kind of introduced us to who Damien Chazelle was. I mean, you know, or Chazelle, however you say his name, but
I believe it's
you know, yeah, and I believe this movie is also based on a short that was originally done as well. But yeah, I mean, lots of things in this year. You know, the weird winning of like Eddie Redmayne beating Michael Keaton and not getting us the Michael Keaton Oscar that we also desperately wanted. You know, even things like American Sniper was that year, made a lot of money. Grand Budapest Hotel. Like, I actually love that movie a lot. I'm a big Wes Anderson guy. Probably going to get an Oscar this year for short. So shout out Wes Anderson. I know you're a big fan of the podcast. And honestly, another winner, John, from this year. And it's a movie I rewatched recently and told you about. Julianne Moore this year for the movie Still Alice.
Oh, Alice. Yeah.
I watched that movie the other day and just cried my eyes out. You know, a lot of that's due. I lost my grandmother during the pandemic to, you know, Alzheimer's and dementia. So like seeing that just hit real. But it's like when you see people, I mean, you know, and Rosamund Pike, like Gone Girl that year as well. Like
he was way high on my list for actress nominees too.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this, and that was part of the thing too. This is a loaded year, and I wanted this year off the board. I mean, so
fair.
You know, I don't know if you guys have anything else, but you know, in terms of our categories, that's kind of what's gone. But I'm going JK because it's such a memorable performance, and his speech too was great. Like, you know, told everyone to like, you know, call your parents, you know, talk to them, kind of a thing. You know, it was just a very sweet message. He seems like a good dude who's, you know, been a lifer kind of within Hollywood and then, you know, finally got recognized for this role. So,
yeah, I just want to say that is actually an early upset on my board because I actually had number one on my board for Best Picture nomination, non-winner, that I wanted was for Whiplash. I thought it should have won that year. And I think
agree.
a lot of it was because of J.K. Simmons' performance and then also Miles Teller. That was our really first introduction to Miles Teller and how he played that role and the urge. I don't know. I don't want to last too long because we got so far to go on this. But
I'll gush about Whiplash all night, man. Like,
yeah, Whiplash is. I actually watched it the other day at 7 a.m. So I'm sick because I wanted to just have someone of like a Bobby Knight caliber just yell at my screen for 2 hours and tell me how much of a piece of crap I am. But yeah, you say J.K. Simmons now, I just hear a guy screaming obscenities. That's all I hear. And I mean that in the most sincere and like admirable way.
So why do you suppose I just threw a chair at your head?
Your head, Neiman.
I mean, it's so good. But all right, John.
Yeah. So I am gonna go back a ways, and I'm gonna go to what I think is one of the strongest years in Academy Award history. I'm gonna go with the year 1974, and I am going to go with my Best Picture winner. I am going to go with The Godfather Part 2 is my pick for Best Picture. I think you can make strong cases about The Godfather versus Godfather Part 2. I think Part 2 is just kind of one of those movies that I think just has kind of more depth to it. And also, frankly, it's a stronger year to draw from because you have Pacino's unbelievable. You could easily take Coppola for director for this movie. Chinatown came out this year. It's a lot of really good performances, a lot of really good kind of award things that happened this year. And Godfather Part 2, it's in the conversation for my favorite movie ever. It has so many themes about America, kind of to say the cliche things about the Godfather movies that everybody says, but also you have parallels to like the Kennedy family, and kind of in a lot of ways The Godfather to me is not necessarily a movie about the mob, but a movie about like royal families, and that's sort of what this is. And it's very theatrical, and obviously it's a very long movie, but I just picked a 3.5 hour movie for my top movie of this last year, so I'll pick a 3.5 hour movie for my best picture for this one. Also, it's criminal that John Cazale was not nominated for Best Supporting Actor for this movie because he is unbelievable, and I think he is better than Robert De Niro in it, even though De Niro won the Oscar for it.
Never seen it.
Yeah, it's too bad.
No, I'm kidding. It's I mean, it's definitely a classic. I would say that I'm somebody who leans very ever so slight edge to the first Godfather over Part 2. But I do think I enjoy The Godfather more. I do think The Godfather Part 2 is a better film, I guess, is maybe what I would say.
Yeah.
Like
that's kind of where
the whole like way that it's like the flashback of Vito in Italy and everything is all like interwoven, and everything is it does things filmmaking wise that the first one didn't. I would definitely say that, but I mean, when you're looking at something that's like on every like list of best movies of all time, is probably like in every single top 5. It's really hard to argue with you on that pick. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm going to sit this one out just because I don't really think there's much to say about The Godfather. I mean, we got a long way to go.
It's been pretty well covered.
There's going to be more hot takes to be had than talking about The Godfather. I think you guys covered it pretty well.
Why don't you provide us with one right now, Tyler?
Yeah, no, I actually do have a hot take.
Pick.
I have a hot take. I kind of shared my strategy, how I was looking at this whole draft on what to do. Is there's some heavy hitter years that I'm sure we got stuff on our boards where you're just like, man, that year was loaded. And for me, this is me personally. You guys may feel differently, but I felt like 2012 was one of those years where there was just a lot of
good year,
just great movies, great performances. It's just loaded. So this is where we get into personal taste and what we like. I'm going to go ahead and steal Best Actor nom should have gone to Bradley Cooper for Silver Linings Playbook.
Wow. Okay.
There's going to be a lot of...
To be clear, I think he's really good in that movie. I was just a little surprised.
Yeah. And like I said, my strategy was going after years because there's other picks on here that I think I can steal later. I just needed to get a year. I think this year was going to... I didn't want stolen from me because, like I said, in that movie, it hits a personal note, kind of how Jason was talking about Still Alice and how that hits a personal note. Silver Linings Playbook hits close to me with my brother being diagnosed bipolar, and I've never seen a movie where a guy made someone who was manic made the audience look at mental health in a different light. That movie, 10 years later, 12 years later, it's just such a. I just feel like it's such a groundbreaking performance that wasn't appreciated enough at the time. And going back, he makes someone who deals with an everyday mental illness that people live with, made it endearing and not like, oh, this is just a crazy person. This guy needs to be put in a psych ward. It actually made you go like, I'm rooting for this guy and I want this guy to win, even though he's just absolutely all over the place. And I just think the performance was ahead of its time. I don't think at the time people were really understood what they were watching. So I wanted to steal that one for personal taste.
I mean, definitely it's, a solid pick. I think, yeah, the scene, and, for anyone that has known me, I myself have dealt with, not diagnosed bipolar, but I am a diagnosed severe depression anxiety disorder. And I can relate super hard with like when you are super fixated, when he has the scene where he's trying to find his wedding video and just nothing else in the world matters. And the funny thing is I didn't appreciate that scene the first time I saw the movie when it came out, even though I loved the movie. And then I went back years later and revisited it. And I was like, holy cow. Like, it's certainly, I think you're right in terms of being ahead of its time, because that was maybe when the conversation around mental health was starting to enter kind of the non-taboo status within the public, talking, or that's words are hard, but I can't fault you as far as like it's a bad pick. I think that year had a lot of good, things in terms of like, I don't know, I got to give a shout out to is that the year of my favorite PTA movie? Yeah, The Master.
Yeah,
I love that movie. I'm not a huge Paul Thomas Anderson guy, but The Master, as somebody that's slightly obsessed too with like cults and things like that, I want to give a special shout out to that movie within this year's, and I'm kind of sad that I won't be able to get it. But
yeah, Silver Linings was my favorite movie of that year. I had Jennifer Lawrence as my highest ranking like entity of that movie, but yeah, I think Cooper is like, I think Jennifer Lawrence, like, she got her flowers on that movie. Everybody thought she was great. She won the Oscar, all that. Yeah. Bradley Cooper was fantastic though, and like I said, I wouldn't have been my pick, but also I can't argue against the pick. I really like it.
So yeah. And I don't know, John, if you remember this, but we watched this Academy Awards at that apartment I lived in for just like a couple of months in St. Louis.
We did, yeah.
The only thing I really remember from that is Seth MacFarlane making a Abraham Lincoln assassination joke, and then it got mixed response. He's like, "Wow, 150 years and it's still too soon," or something. And it was chef's kiss.
Was that the year that he sang the "I Saw Your Boob" song, or was that the other one he hosted?
I couldn't tell you, to be honest, but okay. That is classic though. But all right, Tyler, you want to go?
Go on.
Right. Oh yeah, I actually forgot this is a snake draft. I'm like flustered right now. So I'm just gonna go ahead and where do I want to go? You know what? Let's just, after I kind of got John, I got a reaction a little bit. John, I don't know if you won't see it. Obviously, when you listen to this podcast, because that's not how our senses work. But I'm just gonna take a heavy hitter right now. Since it's gonna be a while till I get my pick again. I'm gonna go to, what year was this? I believe 1979. Best Picture nomination. Stick with my noms. Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, that's one of the classic did not wins.
Yep.
The source material for it I read in literature class, and then the movie that was created was just it's a heavy movie. When we were talking about Oppenheimer and all that stuff, it's another one that just gives you another sense of dread, and just like you don't walk away from that movie going like, oh wow, I can move on with my day. No, you're kind of like, I need to go on a walk. It's heavy. Francis Ford Coppola. I think yeah. I'm going to kind of just get off this so you guys have time to talk. But Apocalypse Now is just it's also one of my just favorite films of that caliber.
Yeah, Coppola's killing it so far in this draft. 2 of the 4 picks have been Coppola movies.
He's.
I mean, has he made 3 all-time masterpieces and then there's a huge drop-off after that? Sure, but
Hey,
sorry if anyone was going to draft The Godfather Part 3 as their nominee, but
But yeah, no, I think it's a solid pick. I do think that yes, the classic did not win. I will say, for what it's worth, I am a big fan of the movie that did win that year as well, though. Maybe it's because I like talking movies. Again, another, we're Kramer versus, I believe that's the Kramer versus Kramer year, right?
yes.
Which, I mean, that, I don't have any, well, I mean, I don't have any firsthand experience with, like, having to go through divorce with children or anything like that, but it's, I mean, that was like 2 actors hitting their stride as becoming, the greats they would become in that movie. But, Apocalypse Now, though, I think is the better movie, if I'm being honest, but I do still like Kramer versus Kramer a lot.
Yeah, I agree on both counts. I would actually say, while I get why Kramer versus Kramer won Best Picture over Apocalypse Now, how it won Best Director over, like, Francis Ford Coppola having a heart attack while in, like, South Asia, like, filming this movie is psychotic. That is just deranged behavior.
But it was also basically the thing, though, like, up until maybe the last 10, 15 years, if you had Best Picture, you pretty much won Best Director, and that's just how they voted. There wasn't that distinction. If you wanted to have more of the distinction, maybe they had, the DGA or something like that, where you have people that look at it, but,
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, Apocalypse Now and Kramer versus Kramer were the 2 that kind of I'm scratching off my list now. All due respect to Al Pacino's performance in And Justice for All, which was kind of low on my nominee list, but was still on there. But yeah, I think Apocalypse Now,
his real low key performance, very subdued in Injustice for All, right? If I remember correctly.
Compared to pretty much every movie he made after that, yes, it was subdued.
Yeah.
All right, so I am up on the board. I am going to go to the well of nominees rather than victors. And to me, the greatest directing performance of all time that somehow did not win Best Picture, or Best Director, I should say, 1990, going back to Martin Scorsese for Goodfellas. It is my single favorite movie of all time, and like, the performances are good, but to me, the direction is what makes the movie. It's everything that I think of when it comes to what a masterpiece is. Just every touch of it is just. It's a movie that's 2.5 hours long, so it's not short, but that is a movie that I could watch every single day and just be completely happy with. And there are some other strong things from that year, particularly from that particular movie. I had Lorraine Bracco really high on my Best Supporting Actress nominees list as well. Obviously, Joe Pesci for Supporting Actor win is great, but
the greatest Oscar-winning speech of all time, Joe Pesci for Goodfellas.
Yes, yeah. There's to me, Best Director is actually just a really strong category of the nominees. There's a lot of really good nominees I'm leaving on the board, but this is just one that I would feel bad to bypass just because he's just awesome. And frankly, I know that Jason loves that movie too, and he's coming up next. So
yeah, I won't lie. I was debating in my head. I was like, if he doesn't take it, I was either going to take the movie Goodfellas or Lorraine Bracco. So I'm a little upset that you did that. Yeah, obviously, I'd say I'd call it my second favorite film of all time. I won't spoil my other one because it may come up in this draft later. But
the fact that it lost to Dances with Wolves, which is like fine.
It's a fine
the
movie.
fact that it's it's just so ridiculous to me. But
yeah, it's one of those where, like, to me, like it was it's so good, and the amount of times that John and I have quoted that movie back and forth to each other is. But I'll never forget, the true test of it was my wife had never seen it. We had a chance. They were doing a screening of it down here in a theater. So the first time she got to see Goodfellas was on the big screen. It was my first time seeing it on the big screen. Just what an experience. And early Samuel L. Jackson, man.
It's true.
So
I just want
the day. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll save my comment for last because it has nothing to do with Goodfellas. Go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say, the day that I learned that a person that all three of us know used to work as a shoe shiner was like a top 5 day in my life, because the number of times I've told him to go home and get his shine box is like, there is no, like, to quote Lindsay Lohan in Mean Girls, the limit does not exist. I have said so many.
R.I.P. Frank Vincent.
R.I.P. Frank Vincent in the movie and in life.
Yes.
I actually had that year. I just want to give a couple shout outs because I knew Goodfellas was more than likely, knowing John and Jason. I just feels like, I don't know, just had this vibe that Goodfellas was going to be an early off the board pick. So from 1990, though, I just want to give a special shout out to Best Actress Kathy Bates in Misery. She was high on my board for Best Actress, but I knew I had probably no chance of catching her because I knew Goodfellas was going to come off. But just want to give her a shout out.
Yeah.
Similar situation for me.
Yeah. Annie Wilkes in that movie is, I mean, that, of course, then I just started thinking of the hobbling scene, and that just, ugh. Oh, man. Now I have to, like, adjust my strategies here as John's throwing a wrench into my thing here. So, to stall for me some time, and just since I sort of alluded to it, I toyed with taking with my first pick. I am going to go to the year 2000 and take the best picture. From the year 2000. It is my favorite film of all time. And it is getting a sequel that is coming out this year. And that is Ridley Scott's Gladiator. And the reason this is my favorite movie is because this is the movie that made me fall in love with movies when I saw it. An epic scale movie, but at its heart, it's about a dude who just wanted to go home and be with his family at the end of it. It's also really, I think, probably the first thing I distinctly remember Joaquin Phoenix being in. It's just a fantastic prick as Commodus. I mean, just a fantastic one. Who also has a thing for his sister, which is really weird. I believe the sequel that's coming out is actually following her son in this, as he, I guess, becomes the Caesar or things like in that. But coming out this year, the score by Hans Zimmer is fantastic. I'm a big movie score guy. And at this point, I won't even lie. This isn't that much strategy involved of looking at the future. I had the opportunity to take my favorite film of all time. And I took it. So
yeah. Sometimes you just got to go best available.
Yeah, I mean, it's and like
this may be a.
Oh no, go ahead, Tyler.
I was just gonna say, my memory of Gladiator is it could be a Mandela effect, but I am 100% on this though. I saw Gladiator for the first time at Ultimate Electronics while I was waiting for my dad to get his new surround sound for the house. Like he was going through all like the specs on what would be best, and we were there for 3 hours, and I sat down and saw, Gladiator's coming on, and I sat in the surround sound of an Ultimate Electronics and watched Gladiator while my dad bought surround sound equipment. That is a core memory for whatever reason. So it's kind of special in a way.
I'm jealous. That is not how I watched it. the way that I got Gladiator and a lot of these movies after that was back when GameStop / I think they were still like EB Games at that time used to sell movies. And in the summer they would do buy one, get 3 free as they were just trying to empty the inventory of DVDs. And I could find gems like Gladiator every once in a while and then have to buy the movie like Ghost Ship for free or something, which is an awful movie. But
is Ghost Ship's Year still available for this draft? I don't remember what year that is.
It was probably.
It does not matter. I promise you.
Yeah, I don't believe it got any nominations for acting, unfortunately, or directing or Best Picture. So.
All right, I got some good news for you, Jason. You still are on the board.
Do I get to pick again? Jeez, buddy.
You sure do get to pick again.
But say, vamp as I make my final decision.
Pretty sure I saw Gladiator because my dad rented it. That's my story of seeing Gladiator. I have no particularly exciting
shout out
story.
to John's dad. All right, so I am going to go to the year 1977 for my next pick.
7. Okay.
A few I could go with here. Anybody who knows anything about me probably knows. Let's just get both Best Pictures out of the way. I'm going to go with Best Picture nominee. And while there may be better movies, I'm taking Star Wars as the Best Picture.
I've heard
of it. For anybody who knows me, the entire top shelf of my bookshelf, which you can kind of see for you two on screen here up there, that entire top shelf is nothing but Star Wars books. I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to it. This is the one that started it all. I thought about maybe going, well, it's probably not the best case, but this is the only Star Wars got an acting nomination. Sir Alec Guinness was nominated. Believe Lucas was nominated for both directing and screenplay also in this one, which is hilarious to think about George Lucas being nominated for a screenplay because he's an awful dialogue writer. If you've seen the prequel movies, you understand that. But he's done some other good movies too. Like, is that American Graffiti? That's George Lucas, right?
Yeah, I have that. I guess I don't need a director nomination anymore, but I have that on my list.
Yeah. So, but for me, this is a movie that, as somebody who really enjoys just the genre of science fiction, I think obviously this launched a lot of what could be done with that. And it was, part of it too. I know, in talking with John before, I know that he also loves the movie Annie Hall, and this takes that out of play for him.
Yeah, so, I had Diane Keaton somewhat high on the Best Actress.
I figured if anybody...
I'm okay not drafting Woody Allen at this particular time in history.
What you say, with the power of hindsight, Woody Allen maybe not as lucrative as he once was. But
this is better. This is better than the movie 2 years later, where he's dating a high school age girl. But shout out to Manhattan.
When art imitates life. But no, I guess kind of like we were saying earlier, it's Star Wars, man. Like, while it may not be the best movie, like, everybody knows it, and it's something that's become generational. Like, I tell my son, he asked for Star Wars bedtime stories, and I've been telling him the Star Wars trilogy is bedtime stories. So it's, it's a big part of my life. So, and it takes 77 off the board. So there you go.
Yeah, not to brag too much about being a cinephile, but I have seen that movie.
Ooh,
that is my
say. Tyler, this is different from Star Trek. Just so you know, I know you get them.
Oh, it's not the same thing.
No. It's just a little different.
Sorry.
Yeah, you don't take Shatner off your board.
I have no comments on Star Wars. I've seen it, but what's said's been said.
Yeah, I mean it's. Yeah, I don't really know if there's a whole lot else that year outside of Annie Hall. I think was kind of that maybe the Goodbye Girl, but and Close Encounters was that year too. Spielberg,
yeah.
Making his way, but
Crushing it, yeah. All right. I am up. I have so far drafted 2 different gangster movies, so it's time for me to deviate a little bit by going to 1972 and drafting Marlon Brando for Best Actor in The Godfather.
of course you are. Man, you have a brand. You are staying strong to it.
I by definition have to eventually draft women. It's not going to be just totally the full time, but gotta kind of take my
you had the chance to draft Lorraine Bracco. I'm just saying.
That is true, and I may live to regret it, but like to me the Brando performance, it's kind of a weird performance in the sense that like I do kind of think he's overdoing it for most of the movie, but it becomes such a singular character. Like there are millions of people that have never seen The Godfather that can do a pretty spot on impression of Don Corleone in The Godfather because just like everything he says has such like gravitas, and the fact that it's like and the one of the legendary stories of that movie is the fact that like one of the main reasons that the guy that plays Luca Brasi does such a bad job like acting around him is the fact that like he's talking to Marlon Brando, who is this like already an iconic actor, so he's nervous about that. But then that also helps to establish what his character is. It helps to establish kind of what that would that sort of gravitas. And I'm not even necessarily like it's not my favorite performance in the Godfather movies. I would go with Pacino in Part 2 would probably be my number 1 of that, but I think just for the singularity of the performance and just to prevent anybody else from jumping on the bandwagons of that movie, because you have 3 supporting actor nominations for it. Obviously Godfather won Best Picture, Coppola nominated for director, but yeah, I'm a man with a brand.
Hey, stick to it, man. I mean, yeah, it's The Godfather. And it's Brando, I mean. Now, I've heard, and I can't remember, like, was it cotton in the mouth? Is that what he did to get the...
That's one of the theories about it, but it's actually not that far off of, like, what his voice sounds like in, like, On the Waterfront or something, so...
That's fair.
It's kind of hard to say. It is one of those things where it's weird because, like... There's not really anything about Brando's previous acting as good as it is. Like, he's obviously great in On the Waterfront and, like, Streetcar Named Desire and stuff, but there's nothing about it that suggests of him, like, being, like, the mafia kingpin. Like, he's not somebody that I think of him, if anything, as being, like, a pretty, like, sensitive-mannered actor, and yet he is able to manifest this, like, absolutely terrifying character. And this guy, like, he's able to convey this warmth in the movie, but also he's a guy who's gonna cut cartoon's head off and throw it in Jack Waltz's bed.
I mean,
yeah, I don't really think there's anything to add. So,
Tyler, you are up.
Keep the train moving. Yeah, I'm going to. I've been taking some noms, so I'm going to take a winner, and this is a performance. I'll tell you here in a second, but this performance is one that I watched this movie mostly because of this individual's performance and only. And I think the movie's really good, but his performance is what keeps me engaged. Let's go to 1997. Robin Williams for Good Will Hunting.
Yeah,
he has probably the best monologue.
You stole my line. Sorry.
There it is. He has just so many. With the reference Jason's making, then to the "It's Not Your Fault" monologue scene where he's sitting on the bench, is just you're just hanging on his like every word, and it's just so captivating, and you're just Then his character, you're just like, I want this guy to be my therapist, type thing. And it's why I watch Good Will Hunting. And I yeah, that's really all I got. I want Robin Williams, 1997.
Yeah, and definitely kind of a career capping performance after playing all these very comedic roles throughout most of his career. I was actually circling around possibly taking a different performance from 1997, which was Julianne Moore in Boogie Nights, but obviously that is now off the board. But it's 97 is a really strong year too. So
Yeah.
and like I'm not like a Titanic super fan or anything, but I'm not going to deny that it's a good movie.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like you said, but it's like Robin Williams, the guy who, like, in doing the research for this, dude's been nominated a surprising or was
Yes, he
nominated
has.
a surprising number of times. And to be fair, I mean, he's a guy that I think, obviously gone too soon with, his ultimate untimely death and everything, but it but it's cool to see things like, his daughter just released her first theatrically released movie, like, last month, I think. So Lisa Frankenstein. It's looks like an interesting film, but shout out to Zelda, I think is her name.
Yeah, good deal.
Am I up again?
You sure are.
I'm just gonna keep this rolling. You guys obviously have such wealth of knowledge on this stuff, and I'm just gonna be the prompt. Let's go to 1993, and I'm gonna take Best Actor Tom Hanks for Philadelphia.
Very good, yeah.
That movie I watched that movie at I'm not gonna go into details, but a very interesting time in my life where I had some beliefs that maybe that I do not hold to this day about what Tom Hanks' character was going through. And it really shone a light on. He really showed the humanity of the situation, and we can talk about him and Denzel, just their back and forth throughout the movie. It's really powerful. It holds up. It's going to be a movie that's going to still hold up 50 years from now. And that performance from Tom Hanks is it's unsettling, but it's necessary. And he knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I'm a strong believer in the back-to-back movies that like Forrest Gump is the more famous movie, but Philadelphia is definitely the better acting performance, I think, by a mile.
I'd agree, and I mean, I do think, I won't lie, this is another case of I had a very high one from this year, but then also the fact that you talked about Denzel didn't even get nominated for this movie, which is kind of insane to me. I'm also just a huge Denzel fan, but
like you could argue he's the lead character in the movie very easily.
I mean, I mean, you could easily, it's like to not get either. I won't lie. Just obviously, this is a powerhouse year in terms of some films. Obviously, Schindler's List, same year. To me, honestly, I was contemplating with one of my next two picks actually going with Ralph Fiennes for Schindler's List.
Sure,
We were talking earlier about movies you only need to see once, and Schindler's List is one of those movies. However, there are times that I will search out the scene from Schindler's List where Ralph Fiennes is just staring in the mirror saying, "I pardon you," over and over, because he's in love with his Jewish housekeeper and but he can't forgive himself for the atrocities, and then he, unfortunately, after he gets fed up with himself and can't forgive himself, goes out and commits atrocities from his deck. But it's a lot of things, but in that year. But man, I didn't realize, just in general, this is a loaded year.
And yeah, I'm so Schindler's List is a movie you only need to see once or twice or whatever. The exact opposite for me is The Fugitive, which is a movie that I have seen 1,000 times, and I had Tommy Lee Jones
John,
really high up for supporting actor.
I don't care.
Look, I didn't kill my wife.
I don't care. Yeah. The Fugitive is it. I remember watching that. My dad introduced me to that movie, and John, knowing my father, does this surprise you at all that my dad is like, "Oh, The Fugitive is on. Let's watch this." Because
that's me every single time it comes on.
yeah, I mean, it's like it's always a movie. Like no matter what part it's at, you can put some of it on. But like, and this is the year. I feel like, like Daniel Day-Lewis in The Name of the Father. Like I went back after seeing a lot more of Daniel Day-Lewis's stuff and seeing him in this movie. Like, I don't necessarily think he's better than Tom Hanks, but he's really good in it, just like he is kind of in everything from the same year. But and then little Anna Paquin won this year too, so that was fun.
She did, yeah. Good for her. Yeah. I mean, she was on my list, but it was not super high.
Not high, yeah. But.
All right. So in this podcast of dudes, we have yet to pick a woman, and that is going to continue for at least one more pick because I'm going to go. Again, I'm going to pick women eventually. It's fine.
We have to.
We have to.
Yes. From the year of our Lord 2007, I am taking Javier Bardem for Best Supporting Actor.
Oh,
No Country for Old Men.
Good pick. Solid pick.
Just one of the most memorable characters of all time. Like everything about him is so menacing and so like I he seems like a very nice guy in his personal life, but he is just absolutely terrifying in that movie. And like I will never do anything, and pretty much any horror actor is never going to do anything as scary as just him saying "call it." And this is a movie that like he's not. Yeah, and just up there, I think, for like greatest villains of all time, and
the haircut alone,
as good.
Is terrifying.
And like as great as Josh Brolin and Tommy Lee Jones are in that movie, like Javier Bardem is like I had it really high up on pretty much every category. Like I had it way high up for the director and picture, and it's like largely because of Bardem. He's the reason that movie is as singular as it became.
Yeah, it's also the accent and how he says things. It's again, I kind of how I said with Robin Williams and Good Will Hunting, where you're hanging out his every word. You're terrified of this man, and you don't want him to stop talking because if he stops talking, that usually means things are ending poorly. And you're just
if he's talking, he's not killing somebody.
It's a horror film, and he's a horror character.
Yeah, like you could make a case he's the most terrifying rural Texas character ever, and like Leatherface exists.
Yeah.
And yet. All right, Jason, you are up.
All right, got some more back-to-back action here. Trying to decide what way I want to go. I will break the streak here. And I'm going to go with one of our female categories here. And guys, we're going to take it recent. I'm going to go to last year.
Ooh, I think I have a guess.
2022. And I'm sorry, I know that people love Everything Everywhere All at Once. How did Cate Blanchett not win for Tar? That may be the single best female performance in a film I've ever seen. As Lydia Tar. And she didn't win. So I don't even have to use her on the winners here. I get to use her as a nomination. And I had high expectations anyway because Cate Blanchett's just a fantastic actress. a woman who I feel like has been like in her mid-30s to early 40s for like the last 25 years. She's just always had that presence. I'll never forget as a nerd guy, not realizing how young she was when they filmed the Lord of the Rings movies. I'm like, oh, how? But man, her and Tar just it's a level somehow I've never seen out of her. As this composer. So, we have Maestro this year, or playing a real composer. Lydia Tarr, if I'm not mistaken, is a fictional person. She's not a real
That's correct
composer.
Yes.
But just seeing, how her life shapes from this movie and what she does with it is just, like I said, it's hard for me to put words because I didn't love the movie overall, but like, how you say, oh, I'll watch, Tyler, you were talking about watching a movie for Robin Williams, watching Good Will Hunting. If I ever happen to run across our CTAR and I'm like, I just want to see a master class in acting, I'm going to put that on and watch her. So that is my pick will be Cate Blanchett from last year's Oscars.
Yeah, Michelle Yeoh, I cannot, obviously I remember her in that movie. She's in the whole movie, but there's really nothing about her performance that I was like, oh, this is Best Actress. It was okay, but the idea that it beat Cate Blanchett is just ridiculous. You are correct.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the, and still somehow not the most egregious overlook. Like, I don't know how Jamie Lee Curtis won there for that movie, but that may still come up, I guess. Well, I guess no, the year's off the board now. So, with it being last year, I'll be honest, was much happier with this year's kind of crop of films versus last year.
Yes. Firmly agree.
I mean, there were some movies. I will say the other one, the only reason I maybe toyed with not taking this is, I don't know, there was a movie last year that I loved. I didn't get a whole lot of love in some of the bigger categories here, but a remake, I guess, if you want to call it that, but All Quiet on the Western Front from Edward Berger last year. I've watched that movie more times than I should because it is harrowing. It's the first real kind of depiction of what World War I trench warfare is like. 1917 also kind of gave us some of that a few years before. But, I'm a big fan of the book by Remarque. I've read it. I read it in high school for the first time, and I read it about once a year after that because I just think it's a beautiful, if you put a gun to my head and said what's your favorite book of all time, it might be All Quiet on the Western Front. So
it's on my shelf behind me.
So yeah, I have it on. It's somewhere on that shelf back there. But it's
shout out to the 1930 version, which was the oldest thing on my list.
Say I already
picked my best picture for
So yeah, I also had it on my list for best picture. But I mean, it is. I do like it. But yeah. Let's see here. Where do I want to go? So this is where it starts to get hard because, okay. I don't like to be boring and take winners a whole lot up front, but there's less winners technically as far as you have multiple nominees every year. So, you know what? No, I'm not gonna do that. So, just for anyone keeping track at home, I've taken both Best Pictures, a Best Actress, and Best Actress nom and Best Supporting Actor winner is what I've taken to this point. See, this is where the snake draft makes it hard because I know that I'm not picking for another 5 picks after this one. So it's like
there's a reason I wanted the number 2 pick.
Yeah, I know it.
Destroy the board, Jason. Just blow it up.
Blow it up, man.
The movie has taken Nobody has taken Sandra Bullock from The Blind Side yet. It is still on the board.
Still on the board. Oh my gosh. Is Crash still available? Why did I took my best picture winner already. See, this is where I'm like,
Haggis was nominated for director, so
I mean, I guess that's true, but yeah, I think what I'll do is I'm going. All right, you know what? I'm going to do this just because it's partially recency bias. Conversation I was having with John today, but it's a movie I rewatched somewhat recently, and I'm going to go to the year 1986, and I'm going to take my Best Actress winner, and I'm going to take Marlee Matlin for Children of a Lesser God.
wow.
Obviously, for obvious reasons, a very historic win as a deaf actress winning. And somebody who's like, it's not like she was a one-hit wonder either. Like, she was on The West Wing. She was in Coda a few years ago.
Okay, she was in a Best Picture winner 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, but like, she's kind of become a champion in that aspect for actors of deaf. I mean, there's another movie that I really loved from a few years ago that had to deal with hearing loss, but I don't know if I should say it because maybe I could still get something from it because I don't think that year's been taken yet. But
I'm pretty sure if I know what movie you're talking about, it has not been taken.
Yeah, so I might hold off on that year until that year comes up. But I'm going to go here just for I mean, it's obviously a really great performance. If you've never seen the movie, I'd recommend it. Marlee Matlin, William Hurt, main two characters in it. But, just because I couldn't think of another one, and I wanted her to get a shout out. So that's what I take.
Fair enough. I had a fair amount of Platoon representation on mine, so that's off the board now. So
yeah. But I know that you do love you some Marlee Matlin, John.
She is the most beautiful woman in the entire world that's not Lily Gladstone or my wife. So I don't think she's going to listen to this, but let's be very safe.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, she's great. Yeah, good pick. And now that we are on a run of selecting women, I am going to go ahead and select a woman, but I'm not going to select an actress. I am going to pick my Best Director winner from 2009. I'm going to select Catherine Bigelow of The Hurt Locker.
Oh.
Not too dissimilar to my picking of Scorsese. This is a movie to me that, like, Jeremy Renner's good in it, but like the reason this movie works is because of like the way that this movie is like shot. And obviously a lot of that goes into like editing, cinematography, but the person that ties it all together is going to be the director. And this was one of those movies that I remember watching it like not too long after it came out, kind of before it really took off as a Best Picture nominee. And I was like, this is like one of the best movies I've ever seen. This is like just like a punishing like movie, but also a movie that's just so entertaining. It's like kind of a combination between like harrowing war movie, but also like kind of like, I'm not sure if fun's the right word, but like very engrossing action movie. And Catherine Bigelow, kind of the straw that stirred the drink there. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of a lot of her other movies. Like she's like, they're fine, but it's not like I don't view her in like the Scorsese realm, for instance. But I think in this case, she crushed it. So Catherine Bigelow, 2009 is my selection. Unfortunately, this means that Sandra Bullock Blindside is no longer available.
Board ruined.
So
thought I was gonna get her dethroned.
Here's the thing. I groaned for multiple reasons when you picked this. Maybe controversial. I don't care for The Hurt Locker as a movie. I don't think it's very good. It is what it is.
I'm
I
glad
am
that I
sad
saved my
that I'm not
picking of it
able to
for-
get anything from the best movie that year, which was Inglourious Bastards. That's my favorite Tarantino movie. Obviously couldn't get supporting actor there, but Christoph Waltz was number 3 on my list for best supporting actor winners. If
Yeah, I had
anything,
him
if you've
pretty
never
high
seen
up
that movie,
there.
just watching the opening scene with him you're like, when I watched that, I was like, who is this guy? Like,
Yeah.
it's
Like
phenomenal
he
acting.
depicts the banality of evil. He depicts so well.
It's sort of like we were talking about with De Niro in Killers of the Flower Moon. Only this guy's way more evil, probably, than Robert De Niro.
Yeah. Well,
But
when you have a character who is just like obviously doing horrible things, but it's not like he's just going around saying, "Oh, I hate Jews" all the time. Like he is just kind of being very methodical, being very stiff, but like that's scary because that can be very efficient.
and he's brilliant. That's he's calm and calculated in his evil, which is maybe more harrowing than somebody that's yelling, if you will, the Führer that he's working for ultimately, or something like that. But then at the way too, though, that he's like, hey, I got information. I can, weasel my way out of it and be of use to your government so I don't die. It's brilliant. But yeah, it was a decent year, obviously. Then Avatar was. It was great that Catherine Bigelow and The Hurt Locker won, though, so she could rub it in her ex-husband's face. Like, James Cameron's doing okay.
Fun.
His movies make a lot of money, so he's doing okay.
Yeah. I think best director was really going to come down to Catherine Bigelow, Hurt Locker, or Quentin Tarantino for the scene where, spoiler alert, Hitler gets machine gunned to death. But just
there's always one scene like that in his movies that just goes on for far too long.
The thing is, I didn't see Inglourious Basterds until like several years after it came out. I somehow did not know that scene was coming. And then just seeing Hitler just getting blown away like he's Sonny Corleone at the toll booth is just like, oh, this is so fun. This
It's
is
definitely one of the 2
beautiful.
best ways that Hitler is disposed of in a movie. The other one being in the movie Jojo Rabbit, when the kid says, Hitler, and kicks him out the window. But
Jojo Rabbit's still on the board.
it is.
All right, Tyler, you're up. You're allowed. You can select Jojo Rabbit if you. Well, I guess you can for picture nomination, but
no.
I think Taika was nominated, right? Maybe.
While you guys are talking, I was kind of just trying to analyze my board, kind of seeing like what might still be left over, what I might need to like recalibrate for. I'm gonna go to 2013. This is one of my biased picks. Again, I have a lot of biased picks. I'm taking best director Alfonso. How you say his last name? Cuarón for Gravity. This is one of those things where you're learning about something about Tyler today. I'm a sucker for space movies, and this movie is just so beautifully shot. It just the theater experience I remember, and just feeling like I was floating out there with Sandra Bullock and George Clooney, and just like this is just like, and then the suspense of it, and it's a personal favorite of mine. So with the Sandra Bullock kind of bashing we were given for Blind Side, let's promote it a little bit. So I'm going to take Best Director for Gravity.
Yeah, to give some fairness to Sandra Bullock, I don't dislike Sandra Bullock.
Right. I love her, but yes, to win for that particular one. But no, it's interesting, Tyler, because I remember watching that movie after these awards happened, and he won different things. And and after I finished watching it, I think the first words out of my mouth were, "This movie has no business being this good."
Right.
And I mean,
if you explain the premise to somebody, they would be like, "How is this movie good?" And it just works.
Yeah, and that's like the peak of like the Cuarón like powers were coming in. I guess he'd have Roma a few years later and some other stuff. But that was like when we were on our like run of were they all? I can't remember if they were all Mexican directors or Hispanic directors that were winning Best Director. You had Iñárritu, and Cuarón and Del Toro, and was a cool time. I mean, in that movie, I remember just being like, "What? It's two people get like lost in space," like, But Cuarón's definitely a master of his craft, I would say. So I think that's a really good pick.
All right. And then I'm getting kind of the point where Jason was a minute ago, where I have obviously picks on here. I just don't know how you guys are going to tackle the board. I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to just stick with my kind of my theme of the night, personal favorites. And with personal favorites, I'm going with 2017 to the guy who should have won Best Director for Dunkirk, Christopher Nolan.
He'll get one here in a couple days.
Right. That movie and how it's shot and how it's told from the land, sea, air aspect, and how it all comes together at the end. The ticking of the clock in the background the whole time, it literally just has you, or had me, I shouldn't say everyone would feel this way, it just had me on the edge of my seat. And I remember just sweating during that movie because I was stressed out. And I think it's Nolan's. I don't think it's actually not my personal favorite Nolan movie, but I think it's his best directed movie. If that even makes sense to you guys.
I can see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think he should have won it. Obviously, as Jason alluded to, he's probably going to get the nod he deserves, but he should have got it in 2017, where maybe Oppenheimer, if he gets it in 2017, does Oppenheimer get as much fanfare as it does now? Don't know, but
yeah, definitely a different narrative, I think. But
yeah, I had a lot of Get Out futures around my draft for this year. So
me too.
I want Shape of Water. Like, it was okay, but like I don't get it. It's confusing to me that movie did so well, but I would have taken.
But
Dunkirk
at the same time, I mean, Guillermo del Toro is just lovable. Like, you want to talk about a guy that I just like want to be friends with. It's GDT.
It is, yeah.
Although his best movie was either from was it last year? That I would say Del Toro's best movie was the Pinocchio animated movie he did.
Sure, yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude. Anyway. But yeah, no, I'm mad you took this year because I was curbing I Tanya. I was going to take something from I Tanya because I love that movie so much. But
yeah, you've reached the point in the draft where I'm starting to try to think strategically and try not to step on my own foot here. I am going to go with my first acting. My first. I'm trying to say this in a non-condescending sounding way. My first actress. Sure, let's go with that. I'm going to go from. It's a pretty common phrase. 1991. I'm going to go with Jodie Foster in Silence of the Lambs. As much as Anthony Hopkins gets the attention that he gets for this movie, and like he's good in it, but also there is like sort of a supporting actor kind of quality to it. I actually think that like he could have easily run in that category and I wouldn't have been like upset about it. I think that kind of the tension of Jodie Foster and the fact that she is just kind of, she's able to be like this tough hero, but also show this vulnerability throughout the movie. And it's the kind of performance where, I think that for a long time, and things have certainly improved, but for a long time, a lot of the like lead performances for women in movies were kind of, even if they were considered leads, they were like in romantic movies, or they were kind of, subservient to a male character. And this was a character who, like, realistically, there was nothing like necessarily like overtly feminine about her, in the sense that like they could have rewritten Clarice to be Clarence, and it wouldn't like the movie sort of worked fundamentally, but like her performance is just so strong and so gripping throughout, and like I think to me it's Jodie Foster's movie, Silence of the Lambs. I get why people love Anthony Hopkins. I mean, he's on my board. Obviously, I didn't pick him, but he's terrific. But this was actually, and I was a little surprised. She was actually the number one actress on my Best Actress winner board, which was not a thing I saw coming when I started ranking. But then I was like, man, she is so good in that movie.
It's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think she's definitely, there's no doubt in terms of lead. I think you make a good point with Hopkins. I think you could definitely argue that, Buffalo Bill maybe is the main male character in the film.
Yeah. The fact that he didn't get nominated for supporting actor, I find somewhat surprising, but
yeah, I mean, but, another movie though that I can't say like, well, it's great. I've only seen it a couple of times. It's not the easiest of watches, but
sure,
is definitely gripping and all that. So
yeah, 91 has a lot of movies that I like. Honestly, it's the movies that I like more than Silence of the Lambs. Like, I know Jason knows this. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this. I'm a huge JFK fan, and like Oliver Stone was way high up for my potential director nominees, but obviously went with Scorsese fairly early. I had Susan Sarandon from Thelma and Louise way high up on my actress nominations as well, but yeah, happy to. Obviously, I couldn't have all of them. Had to choose one, so I'll have to settle for multiple Academy Award winner Jodie Foster.
I like it, man. I like it. All right, I'm gonna get a little crazy on you guys.
Finally.
Well, I'm gonna get crazy in the sense that it might be a little off the board, but if I'm going with Tyler, if I'm looking at just one of my favorite things, I'm gonna take us all the way back to what I think will be the earliest year we've gone to at this point. I'm gonna take us back to the year 1962. And I will be taking the man who won Best Actor in 1962 for his portrayal of Atticus Finch. I'm going to take Gregory Peck in To Kill a Mockingbird. I remember watching this movie in school after we read the book with zero expectation of a black and white film. And to this day, I think my favorite moment, and I'm a big fan of courtroom television shows, movies. The scene where, the court's ended for the day and scouts play in or whatever, and guy says to her, "Stand up, Miss Jean, your father's leaving." And just like seeing the respect that the African American community in the movie has for Gregory Peck. And it's a portrayal probably of something in this time we didn't necessarily see a lot. Obviously it's based on a book, but a single father, raising his kids. Obviously I believe he has a housekeeper, but he's a very involved father in a time when maybe that isn't a thing. And just, I think it's a master class in, acting. And it's just one that it's stuck with me forever. Some sentimentality too. It's a film my grandmother loved that when I would visit her, especially as I hit kind of middle school, high school, we would watch it together. So, I'm going with TKM on this one. In Gregory Peck.
I think you actually got it at a pretty good value. If we're going off of draft placement, I think this was a good place for it.
Yeah, if I remember right, that year was also
it's the Lawrence of Arabia year.
The Lawrence of Arabia year, which is, I don't know if you guys have seen Lawrence of Arabia or not. In terms of long movies, it's very long, but I had the chance to see it on a big screen one time, and it's an epic in every sense of the word. Great film. Very different from To Kill a Mockingbird in terms of scope. But and of course, the fun trivia question. To Kill a Mockingbird was the first film appearance of what famous actor?
I know. Robert Duvall.
Robert Duvall played Boo Radley in To Kill a Mockingbird. That is correct. So, fun trivia for the folks out there. And to stick with maybe this theme of, favorites, I'm going to take us. Let me see. I'm going to take us to the year 2003. There was one movie that dominated the Oscars that year, if you remember correctly. And that's where I'm going to slide in my best director. I'm going to take Peter Jackson for Return of the King. I'm a massive fan of the franchise. I watch through the extendeds at least. Take one day out of it every year where I watch them all back to back and just have a binge day to myself where I watch 12 plus hours of Lord of the Rings movies. I wish he would have won. I have another nominee that I'd like to take later. Fellowship is actually my favorite of the three movies. But the grand scale and what's made me appreciate him as a director with these movies more is watching a lot of the features that have come on the extended editions, which is how they did that in an era where so much, they were experimenting with green screen technology and things like that. He didn't do that with kind of the huge battle scenes. He got people. It was tangible thanks to these giant battle scenes and he founded found a company that has now become a big prop company, Weta, which I think is based out of New Zealand, that did a lot of the things for it. He really kind of made New Zealand also more of a filming destination. Obviously, it being his homeland, he's very passionate and everything. I could go into full nerd stuff a lot about why I like it. I think, I honestly think that a lot of the wins for this was just kind of the overarching, and frankly was a weaker year maybe to take. But I love the film franchise so much that that's what I'm gonna take.
Yeah, I mean, definitely that was the dominant movie of that year. Not a whole lot on my board that was necessarily too conflicting, I guess, but I enjoyed Mystic River quite a bit. It's a bleak movie, but a good movie. I think a lot of people are higher on Lost in Translation than I am, but
yeah, I don't care for Lost in Translation personally. But
it's another one of those movies that it's okay. I don't need to hear about how brilliant it is just because everyone feels guilty about making fun of Sofia Coppola and Godfather 3, so they feel like they have to make it up to her by talking about how great Lost in Translation is.
Yeah.
All right, so I am on the board, and I am
Jen.
going to go. Yeah, so I have to be honest. I am kind of shocked that I'm going with this as a choice, but this category is thinning out really quickly for me. I am going to go 2019. I am going to go with the winner for Best Supporting Actress, which is Laura Dern in Marriage Story. I think it's just it's one of those supporting performances that I can't. This isn't like Javier Bardem where I can say that he's the glue of the movie. Obviously, the glue of the movie here is Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, but I think that just her performance as the lawyer is just really solid, kind of in every definition of the word. Also, 2019 is a really strong movie year, and a lot of other things I think could be circled around. I have a lot of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood nominees up here. We mentioned The Irishman before, another great movie. Parasite, the winner, 1917, nominated for a million things. Not sure how much Joaquin Phoenix Joker stock people have, but he won it. So, yeah, Laura Dern. I don't have a whole lot other explanation there.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely. I think you hit it. While she's not the heart of the movie, she definitely sets tone in a lot of it. I feel like.
Yeah. Correct.
I mean, yes, and I know I've said this to John as I just will randomly watch. Like I will watch the fight scene between Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson a lot. From a personal standpoint, that movie hit me a lot. I am divorced and remarried, so anytime I see a movie about anyone divorcing, there was a lot of things in there. I watched it with my wife, who is also in her second marriage, and we watched that together. We're just like, it's almost unsettling how accurate this is, and obviously it's based on, I believe, Noah Baumbach's real life divorce that he went through with his ex-wife. Yeah. So
with Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Yeah, Jennifer Jason Leigh, who, but it's one of those where it's like, it was a movie that, small in scale again, but like, it definitely worth it. And Laura Dern, I think, was one of those slam dunk type wins that year, if I remember too. Like, I don't think it was particularly close in terms of supporting actress race. I think she had it locked up early.
I got some back to back.
Yep.
Wonderful. Let's. This segment is for the ladies, so I'm going back to back on the females. Considering I have 6 picks left, and I've yet to pick any of our female friends. Yeah. So I'm gonna go.
They love when you call them females.
I know, right? Yeah, this is so problematic on so many levels. I've never talked to a girl in my life. I'm gonna go with let's go to 1976, and I'm gonna go with the best actress nom and take Sissy Spacek for Carrie. Saw that when I was a kid, and I could never see Sissy Spacek in any other film other than thinking that was Carrie. Terrified me. Again, I'm the book reference guy. I read the book, and there was no character or, no actress that could have played that role any better than what was needed than Sissy Spacek. I think she's one of those people that you see Sissy Spacek, you think Carrie. They just go hand in hand, and I think it's a sign of a good performance, or a great performance in this case.
Sure, yeah. Also, 76 is a really strong year.
A loaded year.
Yeah, I'm kind of strategically noticing that. So let me write this
goodbye
down.
To Taxi Driver, goodbye to Network. Yeah, we got a lot of
Rocky
classics. Yeah, All the President's Men.
All the President's Men.
All right, and then this is just going to be a personal pick. I'm going to do the anti-1976 and go to a year I don't think is as coveted, maybe. But I saw this movie for the first time probably about 6 months ago, and I was absolutely drawn to this actress's performance. I'm also going to stay in the nominee area. So for Best Supporting Actress, give me Natalie Wood in Rebel Without a Cause. It's kind of for me the same thing of what made me fall in love with Lily Gladstone. There was just this like draw to the character, and it's obviously one of her earliest performances, and it's such a well-known movie that James Dean gets mentioned about for, even though he wasn't even like nominated for anything. She was just awesome in that movie. So it's just a personal favorite is what I'm going for on this angle. Don't really have anything else to say. If you've seen it, you'll know why I like Natalie Wood. So.
Yeah, and what was the year on that one again?
1955.
Okay.
So we have a new leader in the clubhouse for oldest year.
Yeah, and it's going to remain that way, at least for another pick longer. So I'm going to go with the year 2008. I'm going to go with a legend of the Best Supporting Actress category, though I'm going with the nominee. I'm going with Marissa Tomei in The Wrestler. I think that she is Yeah, I think that she is just like the heart and soul of that movie. Obviously, Mickey Rourke is the headliner and the lead character, but and I think this is also like a really good like redemption performance for Tomei. It's there's like she's been mocked so long for winning the Oscar for My Cousin Vinny for reasons that I don't totally understand. Like
She's
I
great
probably
in it.
like yeah, like I get why people don't necessarily think that like it's a best supporting actress win movie. I get that. But also like she's really funny and really charming in it, and I just am not going to be critical of that. But obviously The Wrestler is a much darker film, but just kind of her ability to, kind of capture sort of somewhere between like Mickey Rourke's character's what he is and like what he aspires to be because like she's obviously a flawed character, but she's also somebody that offers kind of a shoulder to lean on for him. And I think that she's really effective in it, and she's a great actress, and I she deserves to have some respect put on her name. So I'm gonna go with Marissa.
Yeah, I think it's hard to go against her in that. I was honestly contemplating going Mickey Rourke with my next pick because I love the movie The Wrestler. Randy the Ram. But I mean, she is. I don't think. I think that their performances work so well in tandem that they just enhance the other
Agreed.
person's. So it's and it's a very heartbreaking film. As the sport of wrestling seems to give us. I don't know if either you've seen the Iron Claw from this last year, but if not, I'd recommend it. Another
On my
very
list.
dark wrestling, and
Yeah.
I think Efron should have been nominated, but that's neither here nor there. All right, me again. So, thinking that I'm going to stick here with the theme of the ladies, and with that, I'm gonna head to the same category that John was in. That being supporting actress nominee. But I am going to take us to the year deciding between two. But I'm ultimately going to go. Hold on, I think I might have messed this up. But I'm going to go. Okay, I lied. Yeah, I lied. I'm going to take a dude. Nah. I'm going to go to Best Supporting Actor nom. Let me make sure I didn't miss this year because we're getting to that point where like I definitely could have missed a year. I don't think I have. I'm going to go to 2006. And I'm going to take the man who stormed out of the Oscars after finding out that he did not win this Academy Award, and that is Eddie Murphy in Dreamgirls. He's great in the movie. He should have won. And yet.
I don't think I knew the story about him storming out.
I was listening to a podcast today that I knew that they do Oscar coverage, and it was a story that I don't know if it's out there, but one of the guys, he's a movie critic out in LA, was at that Academy Awards, but wasn't in his seat, so he was standing out. And after, I think, was it Mark Rylance that ended up winning it that year?
For 06?
Was
that
that
Alan Arkin?
Or was it Arkin or Rylance? I forget which one.
I think it was Arkin for Little Miss Sunshine.
Okay. Whichever. Eddie apparently got up and stormed out and then just took off to the exit. So, no, he's really good in the movie. I thought he should have won that year. I didn't necessarily love the movie. Obviously, it got accolades elsewhere. Jennifer Hudson won Best Actor? She won that year.
Best Supporting Actress.
Or Supporting Actress. So, but, one that if I'm going with just like, all right, what's a deserving nominee out of this one? I'll take Eddie Murphy. So
Yeah, good call.
Next one I'll go to trying to think. Trying to make sure I haven't missed any years here. Is 1997 still open?
It is not.
It's not. Okay. I missed putting that one on my list. I didn't think it was because I was really excited about one. But
97 was Good Will Hunting for Robin
That's
Williams.
how did I miss that? I was like that was an early one, Jason.
Good defense, Tyler.
Yeah, you got me.
Yeah.
So with that, then see, I told you I'd be the first one to mess up. By the way, oh screw it. I'll go 1961, and I will take supporting actress winner Rita Moreno for West Side Story. It's my second favorite musical of all time. My favorite musical film of all time is the original West Side Story. And she's fantastic, and she's still a delight to this day. She was in the one with Spielberg that Spielberg directed recently. I want to get, and frankly, I just kind of wanted to give some love to a musical because I actually enjoy musicals quite a bit. So, big ups to Rita Moreno.
Good one to go with. I'm more of an 80 for Brady guy, obviously, when it comes to the Rita Moreno filmography, but
I mean,
unfortunately, was not nominated somehow, but
snubbed for sure.
Agreed. Yeah. All right, so I'm up then.
Yep, it's all yours.
All right, I am going to go with. We're really reaching a point where. So I'm going to go with one of the other classic years in the history of the Academy Awards, 1975. I'm going to go with Best Actor nominee for Al Pacino in Dog Day Afternoon. It is the first and greatest Al Pacino yelling like a maniac movies. I don't know. It's my favorite bank heist movie of all time. It is one of the it's the first movie I think that's come out that really fits my modern conception of kind of the dark comedy type of movie that I really enjoy. It's the kind of movie that I don't want them to remake Dog Day Afternoon because I think it's one of the greatest movies of all time, but if I'm being honest with myself, I would watch it a million times. I would watch a million adaptations of it, but I don't think anyone can quite pull off the desperate loser kind of energy that Al Pacino pulls off in that movie. And especially coming off of obviously plays Michael Corleone in 72 and 74. He plays Serpico in 73, which is, an obviously different type of character as a police officer, but a much more manner type character. And then him just playing the most completely incompetent bank robber in the history of the world in being so incompetent that his partner's the guy that played Fredo, and yet he's the one that seems in charge. I just love it. It is an all-time movie for me. It is way high up there for my Best Picture nominees too, so I have to remove that. But if I can go for a strong year, I'm going to take it.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
You actually stole my Best Actress from that year. Louise Fletcher.
We're going to go with Louise Fletcher? Yeah.
Yeah. That was the weird year with that. I mean, because, One Flew, obviously, one of 3 or 4 movies to win the big 4 or 5, right? Because
it won actor, actress,
picture,
director, and screenplay, I think.
Yep.
Which,
along with the one that I had my Best Actress on, Silence of the Lambs, also has that.
Yeah, that's true. I think, is it weird if the highest one actually, in terms of what I had on any of them that I believe in that year was, I think, Brad Dourif for a supporting actor. I mean,
He's on my list.
he's my favorite part of that movie. But
yeah, I mean, I like Cuckoo's Nest, but I'm more of a Dog Day guy.
yeah, I agree. Dog Day. I mean, ahead of its time too. Like the motivation for the bank robbery, even like not very.
I mean, yeah, honestly, like the way that, and for anyone who's not familiar, I don't think this is too much of a giveaway, but it covers a lot of like trans issues in 1975. Does it a lot more delicately than you would expect from a movie in 1975. Chris Sarandon was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for playing his trans partner. I think if they remade the movie now, they would probably pick an actual trans actor. But like I said, it's handled as well as you would reasonably expect it to for 1975. All right, it is Tyler's turn.
All right,
we are coming down the stretch here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go quick here on these two, just because, kind of like John just said, getting it kind of down to the nitty gritty. I'm gonna go 1964, 2 year, and I'm gonna take my best actress, who was gonna be Louise Fletcher, but was stolen from me just now. Instead, I'm gonna just go to my close second, and Julie Andrews, Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins, yeah.
Back to the kind of
not a bad backup.
Yeah, I mean,
no, it's a classic. I think it's one of those movies I am shocked when people say I've never seen Mary Poppins. Julie Andrews is just she's just, I don't know. She just makes you feel good about yourself, and when you watch her on film, not really much to say there. So that's take off 1964, Mary Poppins, Julie Andrews, Best Actress. Then I'm going to go to another. I'm going to go to Best Supporting Actress for my next one, and that's going to come from the year 2016. Viola Davis in Fences. I feel a little underqualified as a white male to speak on why that performance stuck out to me so much, but go watch the film. It'll speak for itself.
If you'd like to reflect on the works of August Wilson and the Pittsburgh Cycle, I'm perfectly willing to listen to your insights as a white man.
Nah. I would just say reference the movie. If you want to know why I think that performance is so great, go watch Fences. Denzel's great too, but I think Viola is even better.
Yeah. 2016 was probably the most famous recent Oscars, with the possible exception of the Will Smith slap Oscars. I asked Jason about this earlier today, whether he was a Will Smith slap or a Moonlight La La Land snafu guy. I'm all about the Moonlight La La Land. I can watch that every day and just
it's good.
Enjoy.
You can't beat the awkwardness of it.
Warren Beatty partially throwing Faye Dunaway under the bus and also just looking deeply confused.
I mean, it's so good.
Yeah. All right, so I believe that I am up next.
Yep, sir.
I am going to go. I'm actually a little surprised. My number one Best Supporting Actor nominee is still on the board, so I'm going to take it. 1996, I am going with William H. Macy in Fargo. So this is two picks in a row where I pick just a complete loser who doesn't know what he's doing.
He's Jerry Lundergaard, though, you know?
Yeah, I mean, Fargo as like a 21 years later and like William H. Macy kind of plays this role in a lot of movies, but he's really good at it. And the idea of just a guy who has no idea what he's doing, who's just way in over his head. And, I'm a sucker for that kind of performance. And unfortunately, this means that I have to take Fargo off my Best Picture nominees candidates, but I have to.
I love Fargo. It's such Fargo a good movie.
Rules. Actually, so I've never seen the TV show Fargo. Is this an oversight as somebody that loves the movie?
It's been in my queue on Hulu for like 2+ years, and I hear nothing but great things about it, but I haven't watched it.
Yeah, everyone loves it. I just have not gotten around to it. Jason, you are up.
I am up. All right. I'm sorry. I'm looking here to make sure that the year that I want to take here I haven't missed it. I don't think I have. I'm gonna go to say 1984. Best Actor nominee. Oddly enough, he was in a movie with a guy who might have won. I'll take Tom Hulse for Amadeus, a movie that I saw way later than I should have because holy crap, I love Amadeus as a movie. I honestly, it's tough. I like Tom Hulse's performance as the title character. Yeah, Mozart. Yeah. I can somehow in my head say, oh yeah, F. Murray Abraham was Salieri, but but such a good fun, but not always fun movie. Like, when you hear, because I don't know if you've seen any other like composer biopics. I'm blanking on the name.
Yes, I have. I saw Maestro.
Well, okay, yeah, Maestro. The one about Beethoven. Is it Anthony? Is it Anthony? I can't remember. But there's one about Beethoven I've seen that's much darker. Obviously, Beethoven, a much more brooding kind of tragic figure kind of thing. But Mozart, this kid who's just, gifted is the only maybe word you could say. He's a prodigy, whereas poor Salieri's working his butt off and can never get to that. So it's like, oh, I'll be his friend. And just if you've never seen Amadeus, like that's my pitch. Is just go out and watch it right now. It's a great movie.
Yeah, it's a movie I watched in a music appreciation class in high school, and I had no expectations for it whatsoever. Like I'd heard of it, but I really had nothing to say about it or think of it. I was like, this is really good. Like this is like a really entertaining movie, and it's not a musical in like any sort of real. Like obviously it's about music, but that was definitely a darker thing than like when we watched like Oklahoma in that class or whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I'll hit us with the first. I've never seen it, so I'm gonna watch it now.
I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's very good. It's maybe I would say probably my second favorite Best Picture winner of the '80s. I would say. I think I'd go Platoon over it, but those would be my top two.
I'd say it's probably my favorite of the '80s. Which I want to throw a really quick sign out here. Did you guys like realize I remember when I was going through my list a lot, I'm like, man, the '70s is banger, 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 and then like the '80s kind of
the '80s sucked. Yeah, the '80s is a huge
like it's like oof. But all right,
I don't have a single '80s thing on. How many of us have picked things from the '80s? So, Jason, you have.
I had that one. Yeah, I think it's just me. I think it's just Marley Matlin and Tom Hulse are the only '80s that have been selected.
Yeah, I don't think I have any
things.
So, yeah.
See, that changes right here.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's gonna. Spoiler alert here. So I'm down to two things that I need. I need a Best Director nom and a Best Supporting Actress nom. Is 2015 still on the board?
Yes, I believe so.
I believe it is.
So, oddly enough, I'm going to end up picking someone of the Best Supporting Actress nominations who we have mentioned in this podcast already, but not for any other accolades. I'm going to go Jennifer Jason Leigh in The Hateful Eight.
Oh.
And Best Supporting Actress. I thought she was the best part of that movie. It's another one of those like long, boring movies with a lot of talking that I like a lot. But then it eventually gets to the Tarantino. But
sure.
Honestly, it's like there's a few ways I was looking to potentially go with this one, but like if I'm honest with myself, this is probably just the one that I at least watch the most, whether I think one's maybe more iconic or not. But that's what I'm going with is Jennifer Jason Leigh in this movie. She's something else in it. In a good way.
She sure is.
And
she is.
She's got the name.
She puts the hateful in it. Yeah.
I mean, she's got Jason in her name too. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah, that is true.
You know what's weird is I've seen that movie before. I've seen it, and I know exactly what you guys are talking about. But for whatever reason, it's like I don't remember her performance. So now I'm like wondering if I even watched the right movie.
Half of it's like spent talking around a fire.
No, I know the movie. I've seen it. It's just like I've completely forgotten elements of that movie.
I think she's the best part of the movie.
All right, John.
Second to last pick. Make it count.
I'm going to go with a year that I'm pretty surprised has lasted this long. I'm going to go with 1994. Best Picture nomination. I'm going to go with a little movie called The Shawshank Redemption.
Yep.
It's one of those movies everyone's seen, everyone loves. There's a case for Pulp Fiction instead of Shawshank for the Best Picture nomination from 94. It's a strong year. But yeah, I think Shawshank is kind of one of those like one of those kind of like classic movies that, you know, people 50 years from now are going to still be watching. It's going to be like along the lines of like Casablanca, where like you're going to see it and you're going to know that it feels a little bit old, but it's also going to be like the themes in it are just so resonant, and you know, the fact that it takes place obviously way in the past probably helps that, but it's great. Somehow wasn't nominated for Best Director, which is criminal, but
kind of insane. Yeah,
it was kind of one of those like sort of slow burn movies. It didn't make that much at the box office. It was kind of a word of mouth movie. I personally subscribe to the theory that the title just threw people off because it does not sound like the title of a good movie, but it's really good. And if
that's great,
I can't imagine that anyone who's listened this far and this is going to be the one that comes up and you're like, oh, I haven't seen that one, as opposed to some of the other ones we've said. But
it's pretty great steal as far as your draft goes, I think.
I would just like to point out about the Shawshank Redemption. One, John has a very strong white male selection going right now with like The Godfather, and I think weren't you the one with Goodfellas? And now you're picking Shawshank. I mean, I think you got all my uncle's favorites going right now.
Red is not a white man.
I mean, he is Irish, but he is portrayed by Morgan Freeman.
Perhaps it's because he's Irish.
And that's what I was going to say, too, is Red in the book is a white Irish man. And the director took it. Can you imagine people now saying, like, hey, we need to change that back to what it originally said? You know, that people aren't saying that because it worked out, right?
Yeah.
If I recall correctly, the initial like kind of casting of that movie, they wanted to have Harrison Ford play that role and have Tom Cruise play the Tim Robbins character.
Are you serious?
That is a different movie.
Oh my gosh.
Like they're both actors that I think are like can be good, but that is a real risk.
I think the movie would have been quite different. Sorry to Tom Cruise and Harrison Ford. I like Harrison Ford, so not for that role.
Yeah.
All right. I got 2 picks left, back to back. It doesn't matter what order I go here, so I'm going to save the one I want to talk about the most for second. So I'm going to go 2011 Best Picture, The Artist.
Wow. All right.
I absolutely love this movie. I went through a weird, I enjoyed silent movies for a while, and then this movie came out and I was so excited I was so excited for it. And then it's just such a powerful ending to the film with the only words spoken. I think I want to say when I say underrated, I mean, obviously won Best Picture, but I don't think it gets enough credit for how good it is. So I'm going Best Picture of the Artist, 2011.
It is a movie that seemed to get a lot of backlash, and I've only seen it once, but I enjoyed it just fine. It was
Yeah, I think it was fine. I think it's just the idea that people who didn't see it maybe gave a backlash of, oh, it's just the artsy fartsy, doing
It's a
the
fun
artsy
movie,
thing. Yeah, it is. And it wasn't like it just won Best Picture. I mean, I think what Jean Dujardin won Best Actor, I believe, also.
Director
So
one, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
The dog should have gotten supporting actor.
It's further proof that things like black and white or making it a silent film, if they're done with purpose, this is the perfect example of doing it with purpose to, great effect. Whereas, I think there's some people love to do certain things or, that type of deal. But if you do it with purpose and it has, why you're doing it, it can really enhance the art. And I think, even if that movie's shot with like any pieces of color, it's, an entirely different movie. So,
yeah.
All right.
I think it's
to round
funny.
it out.
I think it's very funny that Tyler called me out for having this very like white male kind of thing, and then he literally went with a silent black and white movie with his next pick.
it's
Throwing it back. All right. Let's end it on once again, personal favorites. All my list is personal favorites. Why else would I be doing this? I'm going 1999 Best Supporting Actor who did not win. Michael Clarke Duncan for The Green Mile. I'm a big Stephen King fan. Even though it's not officially a novel, it was a collection of 6. It was in a series that he put out of like 6 different books that all came together as one. Then it translates to the film with Tom Hanks. It's just heartbreaking, and he just you are just roller coaster of emotions throughout this movie, and it's what the character requires, the actor provided, and I just feel like looking back, and I think a lot of people, if that's one of those years, I think if people went back to 1999 and they voted in how we know now, Michael Clarke Duncan would have won Best Supporting Actor that year for that role. That movie just grew on people.
Yeah, I think that it kind of also. I think it's a movie that suffered in some people's mind because it was inevitably compared to Shawshank because Stephen King, Frank Darabont, and like it's a movie that I don't think is as good as Shawshank, but I do think it's really good. It's not a criticism of it. I actually had a different actor for really high up on my 99 supporting actor, which was Tom Cruise in Magnolia. But I heard the way that you snubbed Tom Cruise when doing the Shawshank recasting.
You do love you some Magnolia.
I actually don't love Magnolia, but I do love Tom Cruise in Magnolia.
It's the second best performance.
Behind Tropic Thunder.
Collateral. It's great.
Well, yeah. Okay. So for my final pick, I'm going to go with finally going to go with somebody pre-70s. I feel like I had to go a little bit older here.
There you go.
For Best Actress nominee, I'm going 1967. I'm going Anne Bancroft in The Graduate.
Nice.
Honestly, The Graduate's not a movie that I love, but every time that Anne Bancroft is on the screen, she is just crushing it. And she is just so, like, I'm trying to say this in, like, the least, for lack of a better term, horny way possible. But, like, she is just so, like, captivating in everything she does, and it's just so, like, and you can kind of tell that she has that, and she's very confident the entire time. And the fact that, I feel like I could probably spoil The Graduate at this point. I feel like everybody knows how that ends. Okay.
It's 2024.
Yeah. So obviously, like, I get why Dustin Hoffman goes off with Catherine Ross at the end. I realize that the whole Mrs. Robinson thing was not sustainable. But Anne Bancroft is just so much more interesting, and so like Catherine Ross in that movie is just so boring. But Anne Bancroft just crushing it. Just one of the like most interesting actresses. Like the fact that she was married for so long to Mel Brooks just makes complete sense to me because like just incredibly interesting people finding each other. But yeah, Bancroft is my choice, and we have one pick left. So let's see who Jason's Mr. or Ms. Irrelevant is.
Yes, Miss. And it's funny that we'll call him. It is a male. And it's one that I don't even think that this is this director's best film. But by some craziness, it's the only nomination. I'm going to 1940, gentlemen.
Nice.
I'm gonna go.
I know what you're
I'm
going
gonna
with, too. I
take
love it.
Alfred Hitchcock for Rebecca
Nice.
because, for the longest time, like obviously, I believe he has an honorary Oscar, Hitchcock.
He does, yes.
But this was at a time when directors, were very often not producers on the movies, so he, didn't win because I think Rebecca did it. I think it won Best Picture, but he wasn't part of the producing team.
It did.
To
did
win
Best Picture, yeah.
I mean, when we're talking just influence on cinema in general, and I've gone through my Hitchcock phase.
Insanely ahead of its time, yeah.
So like, it's guys like, I'm a big fan. Like when it comes to kind of like him, a guy like Charlie Chaplin. Like I've gone back. I don't know if they still have it, but for a long time, Max had a bunch of the old Chaplin movies on like the silent films, and just the brilliance of like watching things like that. So, here, Rebecca, in terms of my Hitchcock like favorites, is probably mid tier, honestly.
Yeah.
But it's the importance that he had to cinema, and it's the only way to get him on. I won't even lie. When I was making my list, I said, you know what? I bet she slides. He is the only one I had on a list for Best Director nominations, and my plan was to take him. I hedged my bets, and I
had him on my list. He was not the only person on my list, obviously, but
yeah, I mean, and to be fair, he wouldn't have been my number one, but I hedged it with I bet I can get him late. And I think it's a fitting way to end it with the legend that is Alfred Hitchcock. So, would you guys like a summary of everyone's teams, or
you can provide it, or I can provide it if you want. I do want to point out, shout out to my grandma because Rebecca was her favorite movie of all time, and my grandma is from the same tiny suburb in St. Louis as Jason. So I don't want to dox where your parents still live.
But, I was gonna say, I'm like, shout out to my parents still live in the house I grew up in. Let's not do that.
It's too small to mention it by name, but yeah, they lived by definition quite close to each other.
Yes, but
all right, you want to read off the squads?
I'm not going to go through and say what they all are. I'm just going to say, or what the categories are. You can figure that out. But Jason's team is Gladiator, Star Wars, Peter Jackson, Alfred Hitchcock, Gregory Peck, Tom Hulce, Marley Matlin, Kate Blanchett, J.K. Simmons, Eddie Murphy, Rhoda Moreno, and Jennifer Jason Leigh. John's team is The Godfather Part 2, Shawshank Redemption, Catherine Bigelow, Martin Scorsese, Marlon Brando, Al Pacino, Jodie Foster, Anne Bancroft, Javier Bardem, not white, William H.
The
Macy,
legendarily white Javier Bardem,
Laura Dern, and Marissa Tomei. And Tyler has The Artist, Apocalypse Now, Alfonso Cuarón, Christopher Nolan, Tom Hanks, Bradley Cooper, Julie Andrews, Sissy Spacek, Robin Williams, Michael Clark Duncan, Viola Davis, and Natalie Wood.
I'm going to point out that as much as the accusing my team of being white is deeply unfair, and I will never forgive either of you for it, I do have one non-white person. I spent my entire time talking about how scary they were, so I might need to do some very selective editing
I mean,
on this episode.
what's really annoying is that he's so scary in that movie, and like you were saying, you're like, he is a very handsome man. Like,
Yes, he is.
and yet he's still
I
by
always-
far the less attractive.
I mean,
in
the
his
guy's married to
relationship.
Penelope Cruz.
Yeah.
Real, hate to be those kids. Nothing to live up to.
I don't know if you guys have seen Dune Part 2 yet, or even Dune 1, but like you look at that guy, and the whole time I watched it, I was just thinking, this guy snagged Penelope Cruz. This guy looks homeless.
That's what
I
talent will
believe
get
his
you.
famous line with No Country for Old Men was he declared that he was worried about taking the role because he wasn't going to get laid for a year, and now he's with Penelope Cruz. So
Yeah,
good on him.
Hit.
payoff.
All right, this was a quite long episode of Draft Day, but I feel like we did some important work here. We'll have to put up a poll on the internet to determine who the victor was. As far as I'm concerned, we should all consider ourselves the victor because
This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was.
And the real winner is you listening who have made it through this Oppenheimer-sized podcast, or Killers of the Flower Moon sized podcast, if you think it's not as good. The looks I'm getting right now it's palpable.
No comment.
Big gulps, huh?
All right. See you later.
But yes, be sure to check us out on Facebook. Check us out on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at DraftDay-Shot or follow the podcast at DraftDayPod. John, where can the people find you?
People can find me at JohnJF125 on Twitter. It's also my name on Blue Sky. I feel like I should probably advertise that since Twitter gets worse by the day and Blue Sky remains mediocre by the day. Check out stlbullpen.com this coming season for baseball content. I realize this is the worst possible episode we've done so far to advertise sports talk, but it's still there. And Tyler, where can people find you?
You can find me on X as TySlim90, and if you are wanting to know my scathing reviews once I watch Poor Things, I will provide them there.
Very pointed calling it of X there. I appreciate it.
I'm not going to be that guy who's like X or Twitter or whatever they call it. I'm over that.
At least you're not calling it like the other place like people do on other forms of social media. It's like whatever. Come on, guys. But yeah, thank you very much, Tyler, for joining us. Thank you to both of you, frankly, for helping me occupy my Friday night. I'm not sure exactly how much editing is going to be done here because, frankly, I want to go to bed eventually. But we'll hopefully get this podcast rolling. And I think, to quote the final line of a film that was not taken here because I took Catherine Bigelow, I believe this may be our masterpiece.
Son of a bitch, you stole my line.
If you have any other lines you'd like to throw out there, you can do so.
Say, drop a "Here's looking at you, kid" or something, Tyler. No. Think this might be the start of a beautiful relationship or friendship, whatever it is. I don't know.
Mr. Bradshaw, I believe you're trying to seduce me, aren't you?
Deductively takes a drink.
People can't see this, but Tyler just uncrossed his legs like Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct.
Basic Instinct. And John reacted like Wayne Knight in the movie. So
I actually reacted like Wayne Knight in Jurassic Park in that I got eaten by a dinosaur. Spoilers,
I
I
was gonna
guess.
say in Wayne Knight in Space Jam, digging a giant hole to try to get to Looney Tune Land. I'm just going for Wayne Knight references now.
Yeah, because he was fixing to divot. Don't leave that part out.
Oh,
totally reasonable.
Okay. He's fixing
Totally
a divot.
Yeah,
No, man.
unfortunately, neither Space Jam nor Space Jam: A New Legacy
Oh gosh.
got nominations. Don Cheadle, supporting actor, was robbed. Because boy, did that guy act his heart out in that god awful movie.
Just took Don Cheadle for another movie earlier.
At Hotel Rwanda.
How long? Yeah. How long can we just prolong this now? Since John will probably cut all this out anyway.
I'd probably sign off the episode eventually.
I mean,
Hey, just give him the old Truman Show exit. In case I don't see ya.
Is that a movie? I've never heard of it. It's about Harry Truman, or no?
By Gary Oldman.
No. You know, it's a great movie though. It's Ed TV. You guys ever seen that one?
I can't say I ever saw that one.
It was like the rip-off Truman Show.
Yeah, that was like the Deep Impact Armageddon, I think.
Yeah, Ants: A Bug's Life, Joe versus the Volcano, and was it Volcano? I think, or
Yeah,
Dante's Peak. Dante's Peak. Anyway,
is anyone still listening to this? I don't know. Bye, everybody.
Peace.
See ya.
I am absolutely keeping that whole part in.